Chapter 461. Lu Chaoga heard the sound outside, and her consciousness gradually woke up. She opened her eyes and quickly closed them again. The light was too bright for her eyes to adapt. Her last memory still stayed in their car into the truck compartment, and the truck door closed into extreme darkness. Then the car swayed all the way forward. Finally, their brains became heavier and heavier, and then they all fell asleep. Now thinking about it, the truck compartment must have been sprayed with some kind of drug. The drug was sent into the car through the air conditioning gas circulation system of the Mercedes-Benz. Even without opening the door, it could make them lose the ability to resist. What is this place? She was lying on an iron bed with a white bedding on it. Although there was no object covering her body, and her body was curled up because of the cold, she was treated very well compared to the status of a kidnapped hostage. The room was simple, with a white iron table and 2 white iron chairs. There was nothing else. Lu Chaoga felt a little dizzy, as if the bed had been shaking, or the whole room was shaking gently. The door of the room was pushed open, and a tall man with a beard came in. The man was wearing a desert-colored military camouflage suit. The front of the coat was open, revealing a small black vest and strong chest muscles that were fuller than a woman's chest. On his feet was a pair of black military leather boots. The leather boots clattered on the ground, and every step seemed to make a hole in the floor. The man's left hand was holding a glass of water in a glass. The man's right hand was holding a knife, a sharp dagger with different depths of serrations. The man put the water in his left hand on the iron table in the room, then pulled out the chair and sat down. Looking at Lu Chaoga, who was sitting on the bed and looking at him with a vigilant face, he said with a smile, "We have said hello, I am the Lord God. You should remember my voice, right?" Lu Chaoga jumped out of bed, pulled out another chair, and sat down in front of the Lord God. Dignified and elegant, without any awareness of being a hostage. She pointed to the glass of water in front of her and asked, "May I?" "It's prepared for you," the Lord God said. "Drink it and detoxify yourself." Lu Chaoga picked up the glass of water and drank it in one gulp. She felt that she was really thirsty. Every cell in his body was screaming for water. The Lord looked at Lu Chaoga thoughtfully and said, "You're really not afraid of death." "We've already discussed this issue," Lu Chaoga said impatiently. "I think, as a kidnapper, your time is more precious than mine. We can go straight to the next part." The god laughed and looked at Lu Chaoga with admiration. "It's a pity that I don't like women, otherwise I would definitely like you. You're such a—" The Lord thought for a few seconds and finally came up with a suitable adjective. He said, "Superb." Whoosh, 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 the sharp blade in the Lord God's hand spun into a beautiful knife flower, and said with a smile, "So I also brought a knife." Lu Chaoga looked at the Lord God and didn't respond, quietly waiting for his next move. Not impatient, not anxious, not panicked, not afraid. As she said, she was prepared for the worst. The Lord God stared at Lu Chaoga's dignified and beautiful face for a while, then said helplessly, "Meeting a hostage like you is a very unlucky thing for the bandits, because we can't find any sense of accomplishment in it. A woman who doesn't understand fear, this is the first time I've seen it. A kidnapper who talks so much nonsense, this is also the first time I've seen it," Lu Chaoga said coldly. The Lord God laughed and said, "Kidnappers also have emotions, likes and dislikes. It's because I admire you so much that I can't bear to use torture in the past. How about we choose a more peaceful way of communication?" "What kind of peaceful way of communication?" "Give me the Rubik's Cube technology, and I'll keep you alive," the Lord God said. "With the scale of your assets now, even if you hand over the Rubik's Cube, you won't have to worry about food and clothing for the rest of your life. Moreover, you are so beautiful that countless men are willing to do anything for you. Even if they lie at your feet and become a dog, they will also rush to you. I know men too well, you won't lose anything, and you can live a happier and more comfortable life." "Sounds good," Lu Chaoga said with a blank expression. "Don't you think so?" The Lord God comforted softly and said, "In the years you have held the Rubik's Cube, when have you ever had real freedom? You have to follow a large group of people when you go in and out, someone has to go in and check first when you go to the toilet, and someone has to taste everything you eat first. How many assassination attacks have you experienced? How many bodyguards have you sacrificed? Why bother? You have a lot of money but you don't squander it, you have a good time but you don't enjoy it. Why do women make it so difficult for themselves? For something that is no longer important to you, you bet your beautiful little life. Is it worth it? It's not important to me. Lu Chaoga said, it's important to him. Fang Yan? The Lord God's face was full of sarcasm, and his tone became contemptuous and disdainful. He said, that pretty boy? Besides having a sissy face, what else could he do? What else can he bring you? Do you need to be so devoted to such a useless man, even at the risk of dying? Lu Chaoga looked at the Lord God and said, in this world, there is hatred because of interests, but there is absolutely no love without reason. What he has done for me, you don't need to know. What I can do for him, you can witness. The smile on the Lord God's face gradually faded, and his eyes were murderous as he said in a hoarse voice, I will kill you, this is what I am best at, this is what I am willing to do for him. Lu Chaoga said, if I really die, he will be the biggest winner. As long as the Rubik's Cube is not lost, Chao Yen will not fall. I have already made a will that if anything happens to me, all the shares of Chao Yen under my name will be given to Fang Yen. In that case, he will become the largest shareholder of Chao Yen. He will gain true control of Chao Yen. The tiredness on Lu Chaoga's face faded a little, and she said in a very relaxed tone, if Chao Yen falls into his hands, it will be even more difficult for you to take away the Rubik's Cube. He is not a very easy person to talk to. The Lord God did not speak for a long time. Is this woman crazy? Of course she is not crazy. She is Lu Chaoga, the lifelong owner of the Rubik's Cube technology, the person in charge of Chao Yen technology, and a revolutionary in the field of new energy. In the second year of Chao Yen Technology's founding, she was named the Best Technology Entrepreneur of the Year by Huaxia Finance. In the third year of Chao Yen Technology's founding, she was also named the Best Entrepreneur of the Year by Huaxia Finance. Because the whole year was full of publicity and reports about the little flame of Chao Yen Technology. The United States Time magazine published her photo on the cover of the annual Christmas special issue. The advertising words were, this woman has illuminated Huaxia and will illuminate the world. Everyone knew that she was an outstanding woman, a strong woman who was worshipped by countless people. However, if you say that she is not crazy, the Lord God is not willing to believe it. Because every word she said is too crazy and too unreasonable. What love does a woman like her need? As long as they run the business well, they will have the world. Everything in the world can be taken, including men. However, she said that she is willing to die for a man. Moreover, she is very happy that if she dies, the man will inherit her inheritance and control her business. Isn't this something that only a madman can do? I don't believe it. The Lord God said, I don't believe that there will be such a person in the world, there will be such a woman. He grabbed Lu Chaoga's arm and put her palm on the table. The sharp edge of the dagger in his hand pressed on the back of Lu Chaoga's hand and said, if I stab like this, your beautiful little hand will be ruined. I know. Lu Chaoga said, now that she has prepared for the worst, what she is facing now is one of the worst. The Lord God's eyes were slightly cold, and the knife in his hand slowly pressed down. The skin on the back of Lu Chaoga's hand was cut, and blood flowed out along the sharp teeth of the knife. Then it pierced through the flesh and bone, and the sharp blade went through the back of Lu Chaoga's hand. Clang! It was not until the tip of the knife hit the steel table that the Lord God stopped his movements. What do you think? The Lord God grinned and looked at Lu Chaoga and asked, in fact, it doesn't hurt when it's stabbed in, but it hurts when it's pulled out. There are 21 barbs on my knife. When I pull it out of your palm, it will pull out your skin, your flesh, and your meridians together. What is the feeling of tearing the heart and splitting the lungs? You must not have tried this feeling. But I can let you taste what is the feeling of tearing the flesh. Why not just cut your throat? Lu Chaoga did not struggle. There was no point in struggling in front of such a man. It would only provoke the other party to use more intense and cruel means. Her forehead was covered with beads of sweat, and even her messy hair was soaked with sweat. Because of the pain, the muscles on her face kept twitching, and her arms were trembling violently. This has nothing to do with human psychological quality, but the natural reaction of the body. It's more concise and convenient. I have read some psychological books. People will be more awake when facing the threat of life and death. Maybe then I can know what I want. Chapter 462. Slit the neck. The Lord sneered. If you slit the neck, you will die. If you die, who am I going to find for the magic cube? I am not so stupid to fall into your trick. Can you still feel your palm? Feel it well. Feel every time it brings you pain and tremble. Feel it cut through the pores and flesh by the blade. Feel your blood freeze a little bit, and your body lose contact a little bit. Screech. The wrist of the Lord holding the knife was lifted up, and the sharp blade that pierced Lu Chaoga's palm was pulled out by him. Whoosh! The blood gushed out like a blood fountain. The bright red blood splashed on the face and body of the Lord, and Lu Chaoga's own face and body. Lu Chaoga's white and smooth face was speckled with red blood drops, which looked strangely coquettish and sexy. She didn't make people feel pitiful. She never made people feel pitiful. She was a fastidious person and a woman who was strong enough to die bravely and tidy up her clothes to make herself elegant and calm. The rain of blood fell from the sky, and the Lord stuck out his tongue to lick the blood stains on the corners of his mouth and began to become excited. He held the dagger with teeth upside down, laughed and looked at Lu Chaoga, and said, "Lu Chaoga, how do you feel? Do you enjoy it? I am already excited. Are you the same as me?" Lu Chaoga's face was as white as paper, and her forehead was sweaty. The pierced palm trembled on the table, but it tried its best to maintain its previous sitting posture. Her two long legs were together, and her upper body was trying to straighten up to support her weak body because of excessive pain. Lu Chaoga didn't answer the Lord's words. If there was still a trace of strength, she would use it to resist the Lord's attack again. The Lord was very satisfied with the effect of his knife, and looked at Lu Chaoga and said, "The second knife I stabbed your right hand, still stabbed in the hole just now, I just said, I appreciate you. So, I really can't bear to hurt you." This was the damage stacking skill. Everyone knew that the position of injury was the most painful and sensitive. Not to mention a stab, even a breath of air towards the wound would be so painful that it would be hard to breathe. Stabbing him in different places was just an extra stab. However, if he stabbed the original injured spot again, the damage would be stacked. This damage effect was no longer as simple as one slash after another. Instead, it was multiplied by several times. Not to mention a weak girl like Lu Chaoga, even those famous assassins in the mercenary world would find it hard to endure such torture. The sovereign's words were long-winded, but his attacks were swift and decisive. Before Lu Chaoga had any time to prepare, he had already stabbed him with the knife. It was still Lu Chaoga's right hand and the hole in the center of her right hand. The barbs on the dagger once again tore through the torn flesh. Because of the brutal insertion of the dagger, more blood and flesh oozed out from the side of the blade. Lu Chaoga fainted from the pain. We often talk about such a phrase, heart-wrenching. When a loved one died, it was heart-wrenching. When a cat and a dog at home died, it was heart-wrenching. When a boyfriend broke up, it was heart-wrenching. When a boyfriend broke up, it was heart-wrenching. When the fried chestnuts at Wang Mazi's house were sold out, it was heart-wrenching. When they didn't get a private room at Cash Locker KTV, it was even more heart-wrenching. How many people had experienced the real heart-wrenching pain? Tearing the heart and bursting the lungs. Such a pain, perhaps ordinary people couldn't bear it at all, right? When Lu Chaoga woke up again, she felt someone touching her injured palm. It was still a heart-wrenching pain, but there was a comfortable coldness. Lu Chaoga opened his eyes and came face to face with a pair of worried and concerned eyes. Lu Chaoga was stunned for a moment and instantly understood. No sadness, no joy. She had long given up. Qiang Long Tan carefully applied layer after layer of brown ointment on the wound on Lu Chaoga's palm, then wrapped it tightly with white gauze, and skillfully tied a beautiful bow. Then he sighed softly and said, "How did they hurt you like this?" Lu Chaoga retracted his hand and sat up with the support of one palm. It was a very ungraceful thing for her to lie in front of a strange man like this. She was a decent woman. I've already helped you bandage it. I used the golden chrysalis skin-nourishing powder personally made by Dr. King Chin Luo. The real ointment ground from the golden chrysalis powder won't even leave a scar after the wound is healed. Qiang Long Tan pointed to the place between his eyebrows and said, "Do you still remember here? Were you 11 or 12 years old at that time? When I came back from work, you were watering the flowers on the balcony on the second floor. A flower pot suddenly fell down and slashed across the place between my eyebrows. There was a deep cut between my eyebrows. At that time, the flesh was turned inside out and blood flowed all over the ground. You were frightened and stood on the balcony looking at me like a fool. I still remember the look of panic in your eyes. I smiled and told you that I was fine. Then, your aunt took this bottle of golden chrysalis powder and bandaged it for me. She didn't even go to the hospital. Look, do I still have a scar here?" "No," Lu Chaoga said. They had lived together for so many years, how could she not know if there was a scar between his eyebrows? "Yes, there's no scar left at all. It's really a magical treasure. This kind of thing is rare nowadays. I only have this little." Qiang Long Tan put a small medicine bottle into his pocket and looked at Lu Chaoga with a smile on his face and said, "From that moment on, I knew that you wanted to kill me. If you weren't too nervous that time, if you didn't throw the flower pot in a split second, maybe you would have avenged your parents." Lu Chaoga was moved. This was the first time that Qiang Long Tan told her about the death of her parents. "Their death was done by you, right?" Lu Chaoga's voice trembled slightly and asked in a low voice. Qiang Long Tan looked at Lu Chaoga and said lightly, "Didn't you already know?" "I know." Lu Chaoga nodded. "But I want to be sure. I want to hear the answer from your own mouth." Qiang Long Tan sighed softly and said, "If it's possible, I really don't want the relationship between us father and daughter to deteriorate to such an extent. Since you want to be sure, then I'll confirm it for you. Yes, that matter was indeed done by me." Lu Chaoga's tears flowed out of her eyes like rain. The truth was revealed. The truth of her parents' tragic death was finally revealed. After waiting for so many years, searching for so many years, suspecting for so many years, she finally got the answer to her question. Death meant never seeing each other again. Her painstaking search couldn't save her parents. What she asked for was her own peace of mind. Her parents died tragically, and she didn't even know who the murderer was, so what right did she have to be a daughter? Qiang Long Tan personally admitted that he killed her parents, which was equivalent to putting an end to the biggest worry in Lu Chaoga's heart. The dead can't come back to life. Qiang Long Tan patted Lu Chaoga's shoulder and comforted her. "I'm also very sad that something like this happened. I often think, was it wrong of me to do that? Was it too impulsive? If Mingtu didn't die, if both of them were still alive, wouldn't I have gained a close friend by my side? Wouldn't the Longtu group have gained an outstanding partner?" For a long time after Mingtu's death, I was in a dilemma. It wasn't until the real Rubik's Cube appeared that this dilemma ended. At that time, I suddenly understood something. Lu Mingtu deserves to die, they all deserve to die. I'm their friend, I'm their partner. I'm the closest person to them. Without me, what are they? All these years, how much time and effort have I invested in them? How much money and resources have I invested? They've obviously conquered the technical barrier of the Rubik's Cube. They clearly have a mature product, but they actually hit it and didn't tell me anything? Lu Chaoga, tell me, isn't this kind of person hateful? Doesn't this kind of partner deserve to die? If it were you, what would you do? I really regret it. Why did I let them die in such a beautiful country? They should die in the cold barren mountains, die in the deserted desert, die in the stomachs of wild dogs and vultures. The kindness on Qiang Long Tan's face disappeared, replaced by a deep-seated hatred and a craziness that was about to erupt like a volcano. What have we done all these years? We've followed the wrong direction they've pointed us in, over and over again, wrong again and again. I've wasted a total of 20 years. 20 years. Lu Chaoga, if I had gotten my hands on the mature Rubik's Cube 20 years ago, if I had developed the Rubik's Cube 20 years ago, do you know what would have happened? Qiang Long Tan's eyes were burning, his face full of longing as he said, The Longtu Group would have become the greatest energy technology company of this era, second to none. Qiang Long Tan would have become the greatest entrepreneur of this era, second to none. What internet legend? What real estate tycoon? Can these be compared to the inexhaustible energy industry? Qiang Long Tan reached out and hooked Lu Chaoga's neck, roaring like a madman. Lu Chaoga, can you imagine? If I had the Rubik's Cube 20 years ago, what would I have achieved now? The whole world would have to shout my name, all the influential people would have to look up to my existence. Yes, I'm the king of this world. The one and only king. Lu Chaoga, everything was ruined by your father. Tell me, don't they deserve to die? Chapter 463. Every bad guy had a unique talent. Some were ruthless, some were thick-skinned, and some were ruthless. Every one of them had something special about them. Qiang Long Tan was a master. He was not only ruthless, but also thick-skinned and ruthless. He hired assassins and let his friends and business partners die tragically in a foreign land. Years later, he accused them of keeping secrets from him and said that they deserved to die. Such a person could be called the worst kind of bad guy, right? Lu Chaoga was choked by Qiang Long Tan. She couldn't refute his accusation. She also wouldn't refute, because in her eyes, Qiang Long Tan was a patient, a madman. Killing his own friend because of benefits, and then accusing his friend of being disloyal to him after his friend's death. Only he could do such a thing, right? Lu Mingtu, that bastard, he wasted my precious time. He held me back for 20 years, he held me back for 20 years. Lu Mingtu looked at Lu Chaoga with a ferocious expression and asked fiercely, "Tell me, do you think he should die? So what if it's for military use? So what if it's for civilian use? Because he, a nerd, doesn't like war, he won't allow his research results to be used for military use? Stupid. Extremely stupid, didn't he know? Only military use can maximize the benefits. If I didn't seize such a good opportunity, I would regret it for the rest of my life. So I killed him, I had to kill him. If I didn't kill him, the Rubik's Cube would never be created, because he was the biggest obstacle in the research room, a traitor to our group. Still want to split? Want to split Longtu in two? That nerd, isn't he too naive? Longtu is my life's work, my life's hope. How could I allow such a thing to happen? Understood. Understood everything. Lu Chaoga's tears flowed faster and faster, and her heart was aching more and more. She had never experienced it, and no one had ever told her about it. Her parents died in the hands of two nameless robbers. That's what everyone said, as if this was the truth of her parents' death. But she knew that wasn't the case. There must be other secrets. However, what exactly happened? Why were her parents killed? Now, she finally knew the cause and effect of the whole thing. This kind of feeling was very joyful, but also more sorrowful. She was happy that she could finally enter her parents' lives and understand some of the stories that happened when they were alive. The sad thing was, it was as if they had come back to life in their own memories and died all over again. He wanted her to suffer the pain of losing a loved one again. Cardiac-shattering roar. Lu Chaoga's father, Lu Mingtu, was a typical technical talent. His greatest achievement in life was opening Pandora's box with his own hands. At that time, the box was only half open, but his good friend and business partner, Qiang Long Tan, couldn't wait to cash in on the huge profits. He wanted to turn the Rubik's Cube into a scythe of death that harvested flesh and blood and a criminal helper that bombed civilians. Lu Mingtu didn't want his hands to be stained with blood. He was more inclined to commercialize the Rubik's Cube technology, bringing a better and more convenient life for people all over the world. The two of them had a conflict over the future development of the company, and the confrontation became more and more intense. The gap between the two friends grew deeper and deeper. In the end, Lu Mingtu didn't want his brother to turn against him, so he took the initiative to compromise and proposed to split Longtu into two, one for civilian use and the other for military use. Qiang Long Tan thought that Lu Mingtu had evil intentions towards Longtu Group, so he asked Lu Mingtu to go on a vacation and relax. They would discuss the division of the company when he came back. Of course, Lu Mingtu and his wife would never be able to return from that country in this lifetime. This was the truth behind Qiang Longtan's murder of Lu Mingtu. It turned out that many years ago, her father had done the same thing as her. The difference was that her father failed and paid with his life. She succeeded, but she also paid with her life. Qiang Longtan stared at Lu Chaoge, whose face was full of tears, and said sarcastically, "What's even more ridiculous is that what Lu Mingtu insisted on preventing in the past was now accomplished by his own daughter. He didn't allow me to commercialize the Rubik's Cube technology, but he couldn't see his own daughter commercialize the Rubik's Cube with his own eyes. Lu Mingtu, if you still have a spirit after your death, shouldn't you open your eyes and take a look? Look at the surprise your good daughter has brought you. Do you regret it? Regret being an idiot and a jerk? All smart people know that the Rubik's Cube can only be used for military purposes to maximize the benefits, but you just don't allow it to appear?" The Rubik's Cube technology was indeed commercialized for military use, but it wasn't because of Lu Chaoge's own intentions. A world-leading energy product like the Rubik's Cube had to be strictly controlled by the country. Originally, the country had proposed to buy or invest in it, but in the end, the old master of the Qin family stepped in and suppressed the matter. However, Old Master Qin also agreed to a condition of the country. The Rubik's Cube technology would become the most loyal and powerful backing of the armed country. After the establishment of Chaoyan technology, Lu Chaoge signed a cooperation contract with the military. The contents of the contract were confidential, but the Underground Research Institute of Chaoyan Technology did have a few more studios working hard in the direction of military development. Qiang Longtan must have thrown a pawn into the Underground Research Institute of Chaoyan Technology, so it was understandable that he knew some of the situation. Old Jiang. A middle-aged man walked in and saw Qiang Longtan holding Lu Chaoge's neck with all his might. He quickly ran over and pulled him away. "Old Jiang, don't be impulsive. We haven't gotten what we want yet. What if you strangle her to death? Wouldn't you have worked hard for nothing?" Under the man's dissuasion, Qiang Longtan finally let go of Lu Chaoge's neck. Phew, Lu Chaoge's face was purple and red, and she gasped for breath. Just now, her consciousness had become blurred, but tears kept coming out of her eyes, as if she was very sad and sad. Qiang Longtan's hand loosened, and the expression on his face changed. He returned to his usual appearance of a kind elder, took out a handkerchief from his suit pocket, and handed it over. He said, "I'm sorry, I was too impulsive. Wipe your tears. The past is the past. We still have to look forward." Lu Chaoge didn't take the handkerchief from Qiang Longtan. She thought it was dirty. She wiped the corners of her eyes with her sleeve, and the tears naturally stopped. She didn't like to cry. She felt that crying represented vulnerability, compromise, and all the emotions she didn't want to show to others. Qiang Longtan looked at Lu Chaoge and said with a smile, "I don't want to kill people either. I can't kill anymore. I killed your parents, killed your aunt. If I kill you too, wouldn't that be the extermination of your family? I don't believe in ghosts or gods, and I don't believe that bad people will go to hell after they die, but people should try their best to do good deeds. So, Chaoge, you're a smart girl. Don't make things difficult for me, okay?" Lu Chaoge smiled. She was really amused by Qiang Longtan's words. How could a cruel, bloody, and demonic scumbag say that people should try their best to do good deeds in life? Where was the virtue he had accumulated, and where was the goodness he had done? Qiang Longtan smiled as well. He looked at Lu Chaoge and said, "Don't you find your Uncle Jiang funny?" "I know what you want," said Lu Chaoge, "but I can't give it to you. I won't give it to you." Knowing the truth, Lu Chaoge wanted nothing more than to eat his flesh and drink his blood. Of course she wouldn't give him the Rubik's Cube. That's too irrational. Qiang Longtan shook his head and sighed. The middle-aged man who was standing next to them walked over and looked at Lu Chaoge. "Miss, you can't be emotional. Isn't it too much of a pity to end your youth like this?" Lu Chaoge looked at the middle-aged man and found him familiar. "Jiang Fengxing." The middle-aged man smiled. "You haven't seen me before. But you should know my daughter, Jiang Shangxin." Lu Chaoge nodded and said, "I understand. I understand everything." Qiang Longtan and Jiang Fengxing from the Jiang family appeared at the scene of her kidnapping. What else couldn't she understand? She knew that the Jiang family and the Jiang family were in cahoots, and now it seemed that the relationship between the two families was indeed unusual. It's good that you understand. I'm just afraid that you don't understand. Jiang Fengxing didn't try to hide it. You'd better listen to your Uncle Jiang. He's at his wit's end now, so he'll do anything. Driven to a dead end? Lu Chaoge looked at Qiang Long Tan. Why would he be desperate? The Jiang family was one of the 4 major families in Huaqing. Although his Longtu group had always been under pressure from Chaoyan technology, it still firmly occupied half of the energy industry in Huaqing. He had the support of a powerful family like the Jiang family, and his son, Jiang Zhulu, was about to marry Jiang Shangxin from the Jiang family. How could such a person be desperate? After you were kidnapped, Fang Yan went to Zhulio's wedding to ask for you. Qiang Long Tan smiled bitterly and said, he stabbed the Jiang father and son again and again, and even got hold of Lu Tong's weakness to force him to betray us. Lu Tong betrayed them? Lu Chaoge was shocked. She had lived in the Jiang family for many years, and she was all too clear about Lu Tong's position in the hearts of the Jiang father and son. Lu Tong was a special person in the Jiang family. If he jumped out and stabbed the Jiang father and son, they could only suffer in silence, because Lu Tong had too many weaknesses that could be used against them. If he forced them too much, Lu Tong could completely betray them in front of everyone. Unless they had a way to get rid of him. However, if that person fell into the hands of Fang Yan, he would definitely not give them a chance to do it, right? Because what he was most afraid of now was someone leaving him, just like his father did. Fang Yan was really becoming more and more mature, and a trustworthy man. Chapter 464. Today was supposed to be the day of Zhu Lu and Shangxin's wedding, but Fang Yan made a scene at the wedding venue. He insisted that we were the ones who kidnapped you, and Lu Tong came out to add insult to injury. I have to say, it was a vicious move. Qiang Long Tan patted his chest and said, a sword pierced through my heart. The wedding was ruined, the guests left, the Jiang family's reputation was ruined, and we became the laughingstock of the world. We were like stray dogs. I know you are interested in what happened after that, so I told you about it to make you happy. I can't help but admit that the man you've chosen is indeed better than Zhu Lu. Zhu Lu's life was too comfortable all these years, and I was there to protect him. He was not mature enough, and his methods were not vicious enough. It's okay, he is still a young man and he still has a lot of room to grow. After experiencing this, I'm sure he'll comprehend some things. The Jiang family is finished, and so are we. Everyone says that a cornered dog will do something desperate, but what can a person do when they are desperate? I don't know either. I really don't know. Anyway, your father wanted to split up Longtu with me, so I got someone to kill him. Now that your man, Fang Yan, has taken everything away from us, only the Rubik's Cube can save me, our reputation, and our reputation. Let us become a powerful force in Huaqing again, and let those who belittle and laugh at us look up to us again. Chaoge, give me a hand, and give me the Rubik's Cube. With the Rubik's Cube, Uncle will be able to regroup and achieve great things. When that time comes, you will be proud of me. I want you to die immediately. Lu Chaoge stared at Qiang Long Tan and said, she had never hated someone so much, and she had never wanted someone to die so much. He had done so many evil things and killed his closest family member, but he spoke to her in such a careless tone, asking for something that didn't belong to him in the first place. He didn't care about his past at all. He had only killed one person and he could kill again. He had only done some shameful things and he could do it again. But what could he do? He was more venomous than a poisonous snake and more vicious than a ferocious tiger. It was uglier than the ugliest creature in the world. Listening to Lu Chaoge's hatred and curses, Qiang Long Tan laughed out loud. Qiang Long Tan turned around, looked at Jiang Fengxing and said, Fengxing, these young people are braver than us. The older we get, the less courage we have. The more you live, the more regressive you become. That's because we care about too many things. Jiang Fengxing took out a cigarette from his pocket and put it in his mouth. If you care about too many things, you won't be willing to die. Since we don't dare to die, then let others die, Qiang Long Tan said with a smile. Why don't I get my little friend to bring them here? It's all up to you. Jiang Fengxing smiled and nodded. He clapped his hands, and the Lord God walked over with a woman upside down. He held the woman's arm in one hand and her ankle in the other. She did not look gentle at all. Bam! The Lord God threw the woman on the floor, then walked in front of Lu Chaoga, looked at her with a silly smile, and kindly reminded her, "Give them the Rubik's Cube. Otherwise they'll really kill you. I'm also a woman, so I can understand the difficulties of being a woman very well." Woman? Lu Chaoga looked at the Lord God with a confused look. He had a rough face, a thick beard, and a sturdy body that looked mighty and domineering. When he moved, he looked like a small mountain. The Lord God is a woman? Lu Chaoga finally understood why the Lord God said that he didn't like women several times when he was chatting with her. She finally understood why a kidnapper would spout so much nonsense out of the blue. Women. The Lord God patted Lu Chaoga's face and said, "Take care of yourself." Twisting his chubby butt, he elegantly walked to Jiang Fengxing and stood still beside Jiang Fengxing. Jiang Fengxing put his arm around the Lord God's shoulder. The Lord God very gently took out a lighter from his pocket and helped Jiang Fengxing light the cigarette, then said in a sweet voice, "You're allowed to smoke only this one. Otherwise, you're not allowed to kiss me." Jiang Fengxing laughed and said, "Fine. I'll listen to you and only smoke this one." As he spoke, he hugged the Lord God tighter in his arms. The Lord God giggled and rubbed his sturdy body against Jiang Fengxing's chest. The two looked at each other in the eyes. Lu Chaoga turned her face away, not daring to look again. These kidnappers didn't look like kidnappers at all. After such a fall, the woman on the ground slowly woke up. And Jing, the assistant who was kidnapped with Lu Chaoga. She saw Lu Chaoga sitting on the iron bed and hurriedly shouted, "Boss." She rushed in the direction of Lu Chaoga, but was kicked out by Qiang Long Tan. And Jing's body retreated and then heavily hit the iron table in the middle of the room. Qiang Long Tan slowly walked over. When Jing was about to get up, he grabbed her hair and pressed her body against the table again. Qiang Long Tan's body was on top of Jing's body. He looked at Jing's pretty face at close range and asked with a smile, "Are you afraid? Let me go." Jing struggled desperately. But how could her strength be greater than Qiang Long Tan's? No matter how hard she tried, she couldn't lift Qiang Long Tan's body from her chest. "Your life is not in my hands, but in Lu Chaoga's hands. Beg her. As long as you are willing to beg her, she will plead for you. I will let you go. You won't die." Qiang Long Tan tightened his grip on Jing's hair as he roared, "Beg her, quickly beg her. Don't even think about it." Jing's hair was pulled off, but she still gritted her teeth and persisted. "Very good. You're as stubborn as your boss," Qiang Long Tan said with a smile. He took out a knife with his right hand and cut off the hair in his hand. Swish, swish, swish. His right hand brandished the knife randomly, and Jing's long hair quickly turned into a hedgehog's head. It was like cutting chives with a kitchen knife. It was messy and messy. Jing screamed in shock, but she couldn't escape Qiang Long Tan's grasp. Lu Chaoga was just about to jump off the bed to help Jing, but before she could do so, bang! A dagger was stabbed into the bedding between her legs. It was less than a centimeter away, and the dagger could have pierced into her calf bone. The chief god glanced at Lu Chaoga and said in her sweet voice, "Don't move. Don't move. I can't guarantee that I'll stab so accurately every time." Lu Chaoga panted heavily as she sat motionlessly on the spot. Qiang Long Tan pressed down on Jing's head and raised the dagger to stab down. He said, "There's an art in the western regions called scalp painting. I've admired it for a long time, but I've never had the chance to see it. An old friend told me that he saw with his own eyes a foreign monk painting a blood-bathed peony on his scalp. Today, I'll paint a painting on your scalp. What do you think I should paint?" Jing couldn't answer, and her cries became even more tragic. Painting on the scalp? Just the thought of it made one's hair stand on end. "Stop!" Lu Chaoga shouted. The tip of the dagger in Qiang Long Tan's hand had already sliced through Jing's scalp. Blood dripped down the dagger, making for a shocking sight. The dagger in his hand stopped as he looked at Lu Chaoga and asked, "I knew you were a good child. You're cruel to yourself, but very kind to others. But Did you agree to give me the Rubik's Cube? Didn't you want to try painting on your scalp? Lu Chaoga looked at Qiang Long Tan and said, paint on my head. It's more convenient if I don't move. Qiang Long Tan hated the words unafraid of death. However, he had to admit that such people really existed. For example, Lu Chaoga in front of him. Qiang Long Tan rejected Lu Chaoga's request and said with a smile, Chaoga, I'm not joking with you. I'll really kill her. I know you're not joking, Lu Chaoga said. You'll definitely kill us. Whether I say it or not, you won't let us go back alive. The moment you appeared in front of me with your true faces, I knew we wouldn't be able to live. Lu Chaoga was a smart person. Smart people tend to have more worries than ordinary people. For example, the moment she saw Qiang Long Tan, she knew that she wouldn't be able to leave this place alive. Qiang Long Tan was a hypocrite, and a hypocrite cherished his reputation the most. The fact that he appeared in front of Lu Chaoga without any disguise meant that he already had the intention to kill her. Qiang Long Tan smiled bitterly and said, You really know me well. That's right, this is indeed my style of doing things. We didn't wear masks because we didn't feel the need to hide anymore. Before you leave, there are a lot of things I need to clarify with you. You're a good girl, and I don't want you to leave with grief and regret. I know you're not afraid of death, and I know your followers are very brave, but, Chaoga, there are many kinds of death. There's also another kind, which is living a life worse than death. What kind of pain was living a life that was more difficult than death? The knife in Jiang Longtan's hand was slicing at Jing's scalp, preparing to complete the work in his heart. He said, Look, painting on a scalp. This feeling is worse than death. The painting is done, and the person is still alive. The blood is the most natural paint. Lu Chaoga, have you ever seen a painting like this? Bastard, Lu Chaoga cursed through gritted teeth. When a person was this shameless, there was nothing anyone could do about it. Before, Qiang Long Tan had to pretend to be a good person and maintain his great image, so he had to suppress the evil in his heart. Now, he could finally display his talent for evil without any scruples. Chapter 465. When Qiang Long Tan was focused on completing his masterpiece, Feng Xing also patted the Lord God's bearded face and said, Old Jiang is busy, we can't be idle, go, bring those two guys over. Since Miss Lu likes acting so much, let's also add some fun to her. The Lord God laughed and said, That will be lively. He turned around and quickly returned with two men in black who were tied up tightly. He threw the two men in black on the ground, letting them struggle and twist. The rope was made of high-tech fiber. The more intense the resistance, the tighter the binding. These were Lu Chaoga's driver Zheng Xiang and bodyguard Bookworm, both of whom were also kidnapped with Lu Chaoga. The driver Zheng Xiang was still trying, and Bookworm stopped moving after a little testing. Before having the confidence to break out in one fell swoop, try not to do anything suspicious. If the opponent is angered, it is likely to bring danger to your own life. The Lord God stepped on the driver Zheng Xiang's back with one foot and asked with a smile, What? Are you afraid of death? Do you want to live? The driver did not respond and struggled even more fiercely. The Lord God looked at Lu Chaoga and said with a smile, You see, he wants to live, but in the end he will die because of you. The Lord God patted Zheng Xiang's head that was desperately trying to raise and sighed, Who told you to be a nobody? The fate of a nobody is just a way to be cannon fodder. It has been like this since ancient times. The Lord God's knees bent slightly and the sharp blade in his hand stabbed down. Screech! The sound of the sharp blade cutting through flesh was heard. The dagger with 21 barbs stabbed into the driver Zheng Xiang's back. Zheng Xiang's raised head paused in midair for 2 seconds and then fell down heavily. His body twitched violently on the floor, and his mouth vomited large mouthfuls of bright red blood. Screech! The Lord God pulled out the dagger from Zheng Xiang's body without hesitation. The barb brought out pieces of meat and a pool of blood. The Lord stretched out his finger and gently scraped a drop of blood on the blade. He put it in his mouth and sucked it. He turned to look at Lu Chaoga and said, Look, you killed him. No matter what, this is a human life. Zheng Xiang's back was bleeding, and Lu Chaoga's heart was bleeding. She had experienced such a scene countless times, and every time she experienced it, she would feel a deep sorrow that was hard to suppress. Humans were not animals, so why did they have to kill each other? That taciturn but loyal driver, what crime did he commit? For the sake of profit, they could casually take away other people's lives. You will get what you deserve, Lu Chaoga said through gritted teeth. She bit her tongue, and her mouth was filled with the sweet taste of blood. She had purposely bitten her tongue. That was the only way she could remain rational and clear-headed. You will all die a horrible death. That's a matter for the future. The Lord God said with a smile, I said I like to kill. But you didn't believe me. Look, my interest is now completely aroused by you. What game is more addictive than this? The Lord God walked up to the bookworm and stepped on the Lord God's chest with 1 foot like before. He said, I just pierced his heart from the back. This time I will stab you through the heart from the front. While you look at me, let me stab you through the heart. At that time, you are not completely dead, and your brain can still stay awake. I will pull out the knife when you look at me, and then, you can hear the sound of rustling flesh and the knife rubbing against each other. Have you used a knife to cut a piece of paper? Have you used a knife to cut tofu? Yes, that's the sound. These are all my leftovers. The Lord God said. Do you have any new tricks? The Lord God looked at the bookworm's calm eyes, smiled and nodded, and said, I almost forgot. You are different from them. You used to be brilliant, the king of the mercenary world. The king of soldiers returned and became a dog of the Qin family, but I still respect you. Tell me, how do you want to die? The bookworm thought about it seriously and said, when I was in North Africa, I often played a scarecrow game with people. You would stab people with knives, and the one who could stab the most and still survive was the winner. The person with the most knives was the final winner, the scarecrow. When I played before, I was the winner every time. My highest record was 412 knives. However, I used to be the stabber and never had the chance to become a scarecrow. Why don't you help me today? The Lord God's face was full of excitement, and his eyes glowed with excitement. He liked to kill people, and he liked to kill different people, and he liked to kill different people. He had heard of this scarecrow game, but he had never played it. This was not only a novel way of killing, but it also challenged the psychological quality and knife technique of the stabber. Stabbing a knife into a person's body over and over again and not killing them immediately, just thinking about it made one's blood boil. If the stabber's psychological quality was not up to standard, or the knife technique was not agile and delicate enough, it was easy to stab people to death. Moreover, the bookworm said that his highest record was 412 knives. How many knives could he stab? Could he break the bookworm's record? Those who were skilled were bold. As a swordsman, he was itching to compete with his opponent. The Lord God was hesitating whether to agree to the bookworm's request for death, but Feng Xing stopped him from behind and said, Don't be bewitched by him. He just wants to buy some time for Lu Chaoga with his own death. Stabbing a person hundreds of knives and not killing them immediately is a contradiction in itself. I'm afraid it will take a lot of time, right? Buy time? The Lord God sneered and said, What can they do? Even if they are given more time, what can they do? Do they still think that someone will come to save them? The Lord God looked at Lu Xiaoga with a face full of sarcasm and said, Miss Lu, I advise you to give up such unrealistic ideas, because it will only bring you despair. You must not know where we are now. We are on the sea, above a sea that no one knows. Even if your little lover turns watching upside down, he can't find your whereabouts, nor can he find this place. Even we don't know where this is, how could he know? On the sea? They were kidnapped on the sea. Lu Chaoga was completely desperate. The sky was blue, the sea was vast. How vast was the sea? It was so big that people lost their direction. What was worse, if they were on land, people would leave clues as long as they ate, drank, and defecated. If Fang Yan was smart and attentive, he might have a way to find out where they were hiding. However, if they were on the sea, it would really be a classic line in a TV series. You can scream, it's useless even if you break your throat. There is no chance of survival. After understanding this problem, Lu Chaoga was even less likely to hand over the Rubik's Cube. They were all going to die anyway, It was just a matter of dying sooner or later. Driver Zheng Xiang was going to die, Bookworm was going to die. And Jing was also going to die. It would be her turn in the end. They were making her suffer mental torture now, and after they killed all the people around her, they would make her suffer mental and physical torture. Without getting the Rubik's Cube, they would not give up. Zheng Xiang was bleeding, and Jing was screaming. Bookworm's eyes were blood-red as he stared at the Lord God and roared, "What? You don't dare? 412 stabs? Are you afraid that you can't surpass me? Are you afraid that you can't break my record? Come on, I'll keep track of every stab you make. I will grit my teeth and hold on until you stab 413. The Lord God was getting more and more tempted. He turned to look at Jiang Fengxing and said, "Since Fang Yan can't find us, it proves that we have enough time. Don't you want to see my knife skills? I promise I won't let you down. If you have time, just let me be willful for once, okay?" Jiang Fengxing smiled at Qiang Long Tan. Qiang Long Tan said, "Let's get down to business. We can't give our opponent any chances." Qiang Long Tan was such a cautious man. Even if he had 100% control over the situation, he still didn't want to make the slightest mistake. It was shameful to fail in such a simple task. "What a shame," the Lord God licked his lips and looked at Bookworm. "Seems like I can't let you have your way, coward." Bookworm spat in disdain. "Sissy," the Lord God's eyes became even redder as he spoke. "I definitely don't care if you call me a sissy, because I really want to be a woman. Isn't it great to be a woman? How can a man be tired?" He slightly bent his knees, raised the dagger with both hands and looked at Bookworm. "However, I've decided to give you a new way to die. I'll make you watch as I cut open your chest and pull out your first organ for you to see. You've never seen this before, have you?" After saying that, the Lord God raised the dagger and stabbed it down towards Bookworm's chest. A very faint sound of something breaking through the air could be heard. The dagger in the Lord God's hand changed from a stab to a slash, cutting the object flying towards him in half. Pow! The two halves of the object fell at the same time. It turned out to be a small red snake that had been cut in half. Red snake blood flowed and spread on the ground. The small and ugly snake head was still hissing and chirping. The door to the room was pushed open from the outside as a short, skinny man walked in with an expressionless face. Behind him stood a young man in a black robe. The man glanced at the tragic scene in the room. His expression became cold as he spoke. "All of you must die." Chapter 466. The red heart snake's tail was still wriggling, slapping the cabin board. Other than that, there was no other sound. Fang Yan's sudden appearance made the bustling room suddenly quiet down, so quiet that a pin drop could be heard. Why did Fang Yan come? Fang Yan really came? And Jing's head was dripping with blood, but she stopped screaming. Bookworm's eyes turned cold, and he began to look for an opportunity to escape. Lu Chaoga's expression was ecstatic. This joy was undisguised, and her heart was filled with happiness. She had prepared herself for the worst, when she had already believed that she would die, but Fang Yan came from the sky. What kind of man could be called a flirty man? Only a man who could make people feel warm and excited could be called a flirty man. What kind of man could be called a Prince Charming? Only a man who came from the sky like a god. An omnipotent man could be called a Prince Charming. In Lu Chaoga's mind, Fang Yan was the representative of flirty man and Prince Charming. He represented two terms at once. However, in the eyes of Qiang Long Tan and Jiang Fengxing, Fang Yan's appearance was an accident, a disaster. Qiang Long Tan's face was full of disbelief. He stared at Fang Yan and asked, "Impossible. How did you get here? How did you find this place?" For this kidnapping, he and Jiang Fengxing had put in a lot of effort. They deliberated and arranged it carefully, sending the Mercedes-Benz into the truck, sending the truck into the container, and then sending the container to the freighter. Now, the freighter was sailing on the distant sea, heading towards the Pacific Ocean. They tried to leave no traces. They thought that Fang Yan would not be able to find Lu Chaoga's whereabouts no matter how hard he tried. But what were the two lumps standing at the door? Surprised, Fang Yan stared coldly at Qiang Long Tan, as if looking at a dead man. "Why do I not feel surprised to see you? I don't feel surprised at all, but you are too disgusting. You knew it was me? Qiang Long Tan's mind spun rapidly. The moment Fang Yan appeared, he had already thought of the cause and effect of the matter and various possibilities. Is there even a need to guess? Although you have repeatedly said in the media that you are willing to deepen the cooperation with Chao Yan, but everyone knows that you are greedy for the Rubik's Cube. Chao Yan and Lu Chaoga have been in constant trouble for the past few years, and the number of engineers who died in Chao Yan's underground research facility is uncountable. If it weren't for the support of the Qin family, the research facility would have fallen into a difficult situation where there were no engineers available. I don't want to believe that the Jiang family played a part in this. Qiang Long Tan stopped what he was doing. He was still not good at being an artist. His hands were covered in blood, and even the blade of the knife was dripping with blood. Everyone is doing it. If our Jiang family doesn't do it, wouldn't we be too different? Qiang Long Tan said with a smile. He released the silence. He knew that he no longer had a chance to kill Jing. Besides, whether Jing died or not, he really didn't care at all. Jing got up from the table and ran to Lu Chaoga's side. Lu Chaoga immediately helped her bandage. Snake Lord took out a gray porcelain bottle from his pocket and threw it over. After Lu Chaoga caught the bottle, she uncorked it and poured the entire bottle of powder onto Jing's head. After quickly bandaging Jing, Lu Chaoga rushed to Zheng Xiang's side and flipped his body over. Lu Chaoga reached out and found that Zheng Xiang's heart had stopped beating and his breathing had stopped. His body was cold, and it seemed that he had been dead for some time. His eyes were wide open, and he died with a grievance. Lu Chaoga closed his eyes and took off her suit jacket to cover his face. You had long guessed that it was me, so you caused a scene at the wedding and forced the Jiang father and son into a desperate situation. I had no choice but to take the risk and pin all my hopes on Lu Chaoga's Rubik's Cube. If it weren't for the Jiang family's passive position after the wedding incident, I wouldn't have been in a hurry to get a result. I would have locked them up for 3 to 5 months, or even a year and a half. My greatest strength is patience, and I was confident that I would eventually defeat and convince them. If I hadn't come, you would never have found this place. So, this was also part of your plan. You used the trick of chasing the tiger down the mountain to find Lu Chaoga's whereabouts from me. Qiang Long Tan looked at Fang Yan with a puzzled look and said, What I don't understand is, how did you find this place? This was an uninhabited sea. Without someone to navigate and guide them, it would have been impossible for them to reach this place. How did Fang Yan do it? Was there a traitor by his side? Qiang Long Tan inadvertently glanced at Jiang Fengxing and ruled out this possibility. If the plan to kidnap Lu Chaoga was made by him, then the real executor was Jiang Fengxing. Jiang Fengxing was more invested in this than himself, and he had a lot of benefits on Lu Chaoga. What reason did he have to betray him? Betray the plan to kidnap the goddess? After Qiang Long Tan was betrayed by Lu Tong once, it was very difficult for him to trust anyone again, including his current partner. Qiang Long Tan, I admit that you are a very smart person and a natural conspirator. No one is more vicious than you, and no one is more vicious than you. You didn't trust Lu Tong for a long time, so you arranged for him to be by your son Jiang Zhuliu's side. You single-handedly planned the kidnapping of Lu Chaoga, but I'm afraid even your own son didn't know about it, right? Qiang Long Tan, in this world, having no one to trust, is it very sad? Lu Tong knows too many secrets. If you want to have a good ending, it's best for you to escape in time. I sent him to Jiang Zhuliu's side to give him a way out. How can you say that I don't trust him? No matter what reason he has, he stood on your side and stabbed me. That's not just because he doesn't trust me. As for Jiang Zhuliu, he's still a young man. He always pretends to be mature, but deep down he's still a kid who hasn't grown up. Why would you let a kid know so many dirty things? Qiang Long Tan still didn't give up. He kept staring at Fang Yan and asked, You still haven't told me, how did you find this place? Because I planted a tracking device on you. Fang Yan said sarcastically. As long as you're human, there will be traces of your existence. That's impossible. Qiang Long Tan immediately refuted. Before I boarded the ship, I used a sophisticated device to check my body. I don't have any suspicious objects on me, We're confident about that. Who said the device can definitely detect you? Fang Yan sneered. The Snake Lord whistled. A hair-thin black snake crawled out from Qiang Longtan's hair. It coiled up in the middle of his hair, blending in with his hair. It was hard to distinguish with the naked eye. If it didn't pop out to look around, you'd only see it as a slightly thicker strand of hair. Fang Yan was worried about Lu Chaoga's kidnapping. On one hand, he sent people to ask around for Lu Chaoga's whereabouts. On the other hand, he and Qin Ying and the others used the elimination method to analyze who was the most likely suspect. Fang Yan used one night to look through all the information on the crises that Chao Yan and Lu Chaoga had encountered in the past 3 years. Finally, he locked onto the Jiang father and son. At this time in Huaqing, there was a huge conflict of interest. Furthermore, there were only a few people who had the ability to kidnap Lu Chaoga without anyone knowing. The Jiang father and son were the biggest suspects. Therefore, Fang Yan caused a ruckus at Jiang Zhulio's wedding, forcing the Jiang father and son into a dead end. Then he formed an alliance with Lu Tong, giving the Jiang father and son the deepest and most painful stab. When Fang Yan left with Lu Shu and Lan Shanggu, it was the same as taking away all the Jiang family's energy and spirit. His skeleton was also shattered with a single slap. Qiang Longtan was eager for revenge, so he could only seek revenge from Lu Chaoga, who was already held hostage by him. At the wedding venue, when Jiang Longtan jumped down from the stage and wanted Fang Yan to punch and kick him a few times, the two of them were very close to each other, giving Fang Yan an opportunity. He flicked the blind black dragon, who could communicate with the female snake through ventriloquism, into Qiang Longtan's hair. Any tracking device could be detected by more advanced detection devices. However, if he used the blind black dragon, this possibility would not exist. The blind black dragon was a fleshly animal. It didn't have any metal or chips. Moreover, the blind black dragon communicated with the female snake through ventriloquism. As long as its abdomen wriggled, it would produce a special wave. When the female snake received the wave signal, it would follow. After Fang Yan placed the blind black dragon on Qiang Longtan, he ordered Snake Lord to monitor him closely. Sure enough, Qiang Longtan didn't make them wait for too long. When the whole world thought he would close his door to heal, he slipped out of the house in the middle of the night in disguise. When he arrived at the port and was about to board the ship, Fang Yan had a rough idea of where Lu Chaoga was going. However, the sea was vast. It was easier said than done to find a person or a ship on the surface of the sea. If they were too close, they would be easily discovered. If they were too far away, they would easily lose track of them. Qiang Longtan was too cunning. They had to spend a lot of effort to follow behind him without him noticing. However, it would still take a lot of time to find the cargo ship. Fang Yan and the Snake Lord took the boat and circled the sea for a long time before they finally confirmed their target. Qiang Longtan couldn't see the black snake above his head, but he noticed something strange from the frightened eyes of others. He held the dagger and swung it above his head. The blind black dragon didn't have eyes, but it was the most agile snake species. When it sensed danger, it immediately took the initiative to attack its prey. Ah! Qiang Longtan screamed. The back of his hand was bitten by the blind black dragon. Chapter 467. The blind black dragon was a tracking snake. Its body was like hair and it had little venom. Its toxicity was slightly stronger than that of ordinary snakes, but it was far less deadly than the other snakes raised by the Snake Lord. At first, Qiang Longtan only felt that the back of his hand had been pecked by a poisonous snake, and a small red spot appeared on it, like a mosquito bite. Soon, the spot began to slowly expand into a purple-red bruise. With this bruise as the center, the surrounding skin and flesh quickly changed color. In the end, the whole palm turned pitch black, as if it had been dyed by ink. Qiang Longtan's expression was horrified. He looked at his palm and forgot to swing his knife again. After biting Qiang Longtan, the blind black dragon fell to the ground. Summoned by the female snake's aura, it took the initiative to rush in the direction of the Snake Lord. The black snake crawled silently along the Snake Lord's shoes and soon disappeared on the Snake Lord's body. They hadn't seen each other for a long time. Maybe he was already reunited with the female snake. A tuft of black hair scattered on the ground. It was Qiang Long Tan who had felt the danger above his head and swung his knife down. The Snake Lord looked at Qiang Long Tan coldly and said, "Don't move. Don't move. The more you move, the faster the poison will spread in your body. When this black spot spreads to your whole body, your organs will fail and your body functions will degenerate, you will rot and die." The blind black dragon was a tracking snake, and it didn't have strong attack power or strong venom. It tried its best to bite out and spray all the venom in its body, but it could only infect an adult's arm. As for the organ failure and body functions degeneration that the Snake Lord said, it was impossible for the body to rot and die. The smarter a person was, the more suspicious they were, and the smarter they were, the more afraid they were of death. After listening to the Snake Lord's words, Qiang Long Tan didn't dare to move again. The god looked at Fang Yen charmingly and said with a smile, "Oh, you're the pretty boy Fang Yen that Miss Lu is thinking about? Not bad. At first, I thought that the gigolo was just a little good-looking. He had no ability and no sense of responsibility. He only knew how to rely on his natural good looks to play with the feelings of us girls." Fang Yen silently looked at the Lord God's bearded face, as well as the delicate voice and movements when he spoke, and sneered in his heart. "Play with your feelings? In your dreams? I didn't expect you to actually find me, and I didn't expect you to really dare to come. Fang Yen, you're really a man. Such a man was indeed worthy of girls' liking. Miss Lu was willing to die for you, and you were willing to die for her. What a pair of ill-fated mandarin ducks." The fingers of the Lord God rotated gently, and the strangely shaped barbed dagger in his wrist spun one beautiful knife flower after another. Step by step, he walked toward Fang Yen and said, "I like to have a lover. Therefore, I will be very gentle to you." As the Lord God spoke, his body suddenly pounced towards Fang Yen. His feet stamped on the ground, and his burly body jumped high. The dagger in his hand was raised high, and the sharp dagger blade pierced the top of Fang Yan's head. He wanted to insert the dagger in his hand into the top of Fang Yan's head and harvest Fang Yan's life in the most direct and cruel way. When the Lord God stood still, he was like a hill. When he ran and sprinted to attack, his body became as flexible as a rabbit. Moreover, that flexible waist gave people a somewhat enchanting feeling. His body flying in the air made no sound, like a fish swimming in deep water, like an eagle flying in the sky. The dagger he stabbed out did not make any sound, as if the dagger did not have any strength on it. But wherever his dagger passed, there was a pale red light. Fast. His speed was too fast. Because it was fast, the speed left the sound far behind. When you saw the dagger he swung out, the sound of the dagger was still slow to come. It was indeed extraordinary to be able to use a weapon to such an extent. The Snake Lord did not rush up to fight back. He even took half a step in the direction of Lu Chaoga. He used his body to block in front of Lu Chaoga to prevent Feng Xing, who was watching the battle, from hurting Lu Chaoga. He knew that Fang Yen was crazy, and he needed to find an opportunity to vent the anger in his heart. Fang Yen also stood still, as if he was at a loss in the face of the Lord God's attack. Hiss! It was not until the dagger was about to be inserted into the top of Fang Yan's head like a green rainbow that the sound it caused was heard. However, the sound was not the sound of the dagger, but the sound of the air being ignited by the heat wave emitted by the dagger itself. Fang Yen waved his hand. It seemed that it was true. He just raised his right hand towards the air. Then, the Lord God retreated. Fang Yen was surprised, and the Lord God was even more surprised. "How did you do it?" the Lord God asked in surprise. "Just now, what happened?" Fang Yen was surprised that he had just used a move of Dragon Catcher to grab the main vein of the Lord God's wrist, but he had touched nothing. This was not a simple Dragon Catcher, but a Dragon Catcher when the heart of Tai Chi was spinning wildly and the Tai Chi domain had been fully developed. This move should be called Tai Chi Dragon Catcher. The Lord God was surprised that there was someone faster than him. Although the Lord God was burly, he was good at physical flexibility and agility. He learned tap dance from a professional dance teacher when he was a child, and he also participated in world-class tap dance competitions when he was a teenager. It was not until he was discovered by the mutants that he gave up dancing and became the current Lord God. The reason why the Lord God was nicknamed the Lord God was because his attacks were always successful. Within his attack range, no one could avoid his dagger. Just like the divine domain, he was the master of the domain. However, in the process of competing in speed in this round, the Lord God lost to Fang Yan. What he thought was a safe attack had failed. If he had not retracted his saber quickly, Fang Yan would have seized the meridians on his wrist, and he would have become a prisoner. The Lord God was proud, and he would not allow such a failure to happen to him. His fingers kept flicking, and the sharp dagger in his hand seemed to have a life of its own, making dazzling and wonderful knife moves one after another. The Lord God's big beard face stretched out, and he grinned and looked at Fang Yan and said, "Interesting. It's really interesting. No one could keep up with my pace before. I didn't expect to meet an opponent today. It's a pity. I've heard of your name for a long time. 3 years ago, you fought the Japanese sword god Chiba Hashirama at the top of One Sword Peak. I thought you were just undeserved and had been elevated by others. It's really a surprise to try it today. I want to apologize to you. You're not a pretty boy. At least you're not a good-for-nothing pretty boy." The Lord God licked his lips and made a greedy and bloodthirsty gesture. He bowed slightly and the dagger in his hand stopped spinning. He held the dagger upside down in his right hand, stared at Fang Yan with sharp eyes, and said, "Tai Chi? Is that the legendary heart of Tai Chi? Although I didn't know what happened just now, then try to take another move from me." The Lord God's body began to spin, spinning counterclockwise, like a top that could summon a hurricane. The strong airflow filled this narrow space. Qiang Long Tan's hair was flying in the wind, and even the iron chair was rolled up by him. The Lord God's body turned and spun up. At the same time, he had turned into a vague shadow. Phew! The speed of the Lord God's rotation did not slow down, and he and his knife turned into a tangible but intangible shadow, bursting out with bright cold electricity. Around Fang Yan, he had turned 7 or 8 times in an instant. There were dozens of cold electricity in each circle, stabbing at Fang Yan's body from any possible or impossible angle. Wind Shadow Knife Technique? Fang Yan was secretly surprised that the Lord God's Wind Shadow Knife technique had reached a high level. The naked eye could only catch the shadow of the wind, but could not see the real trace. Each knife seemed to be scattered, but nearly 100 knives were connected to form an impenetrable knife net. A knife was connected to a knife, and a ring was connected to a ring. It made people's bodies tense and their hearts depressed. Killing array. This was the power formed after the great success of the knife technique, killing with array. As long as you entered the array, there was no place to hide. However, he smiled coldly and said, "You actually dare to show off in front of me with your weak wind shadow saber technique? Who gave you such confidence?" The Lord God's voice came out of the tornado and said, "When I kill you, you will know where my confidence comes from." Fang Yan's words completely angered the Lord God. He spun faster, and the frequency of his knife was higher. Every knife stabbed at Fang Yan's vital points. Fang Yan's eyes were tightly shut, and he stood there without moving. He was waiting for the Lord God to show his true body. Because Fang Yan knew very well that the Lord God's continuous attacks were all illusory moves. The real killing move had not appeared yet. The Lord God was looking for the best gap, and Fang Yan was also looking for an opportunity to break the enemy. Fang Yan seemed to be impatient and reached out to grab the black shadow. Chirp! The wind stopped, and the Lord God's body finally appeared. He finally waited for the opportunity and stabbed at Fang Yan's chest. One-hit kill. Whoosh! Fang Yan lightly stretched out his hand. As if waiting for 1,000 years, his hand just happened to block the Lord God's attack route. He reached out and grabbed the Lord God's arm in the palm of his hand. "You all deserve to die," Fang Yan said coldly. He really hated these scumbags. Gotcha! Fang Yan used his strength and directly broke one of the Lord God's arms. Chapter 468. The first sound was the crushing of gravity. It was as if the shell of a peanut in the palm had been crushed. Fang Yan didn't stop there. He was still exerting force with the hand that was holding the overgod's arm. His expression was cold, and his eyes were filled with killing intent, like a vengeful demon king who had fallen into an extreme state of madness. "You people never know what a lesson is," Fang Yan said coldly. "Since you don't know what a lesson is, I'll let you know what savagery is." Fang Yan's right hand kept kneading, and surging waves of hidden force gushed out. This was the Tai Chi soft force. Although there was the word soft in its name, it was the most brutal and overbearing force. The overgod's bones were wrapped by the soft force, and then tightened and compressed. Crack, crack, crack. The sound of bones breaking rang out incessantly, like the sound of peanuts being crushed into powder. Fang Yan used the great dragon catcher hand to lock the meridians on the overgod's wrist, and no matter how hard the overgod tried, he couldn't break free. When Fang Yan broke the bones in his arm, he felt a heart-wrenching pain. When Fang Yan directed the unparalleled soft force to smash and crush himself again and again, he could no longer feel any pain, because he realized that he had suddenly lost contact with the arm that was holding the saber. It was as if his arm had been cut off by a saber. For a split second, he couldn't feel any pain. Fang Yan looked at the overgod's frightened and increasingly violent and vicious eyes, and said, "What's the most painful pain? It's not feeling pain, but knowing that something is leaving you." Fang Yixing's death was what Fang Yan felt. This kind of pain was the most corrosive to a person's will, and the most difficult to extricate oneself from. Fang Yan took the dagger from the overgod's hand, the dagger with barbs on it. At this time, the overgod no longer had any strength to resist. It was not difficult to beat someone, but it was difficult to send someone away. It was not difficult to send someone away, but it was difficult to take someone away. True experts weren't good at beating people up, but they could easily send people flying a few meters away. It's not hard to give someone away, but it's hard to take someone away. It means that as long as he lightly touches your body, you won't be able to move at all. What Fang Yan was using now was the take formula. Like a dragon bind, it made a supreme expert like the Lord God lose the ability to move. Fear, hatred, helplessness, and other emotions that were hard to describe. "However," he said disdainfully, "is this your so-called wild nature? If that's all, it would be too disappointing. I have to say, in terms of interrogation, you guys are far inferior to us who survived the battlefield." "Bookworm, don't you think so?" The bookworm was still lying on the ground. He was tied up with layers and layers of ropes. If one did not rely on external help, it would be very difficult to untie this kind of knot known as the 98 knots. The Lord God still maintained his self-awareness. Unfortunately, this did not affect the battle at all. "Is that so?" Fang Yan glanced at Bookworm and asked aloud. "Yes." Bookworm nodded. Just now they wanted to play with the scarecrow and paint on the scalp. Compared with what you're doing now, it's really much more high-end. "Oh, I've heard of scarecrows before. If you stab a living person with knives, the one who stabs the most knives and doesn't die will be the final winner. The last person who gets stabbed will have knives all over his body, just like a scarecrow." "What is painting on the scalp?" As Fang Yan spoke, the dagger in his hand slammed into the Lord God's heart. The dagger was sharp and didn't require much strength. He didn't use too much strength either. He held the dagger and slowly pushed it into the Lord God's body. Very gentle and very affectionate. Every time he pushed, the Lord God's expression became more ferocious. With every centimeter, the Lord God's body trembled once. When the blade touched the pericardium, the Lord God's body trembled particularly violently. Although he didn't have the internal vision function, he could clearly feel the movement of the knife in the body, knowing when it pierced the skin, when it pierced the flesh, and when it would pierce the heart. The heart was pierced, and the person was going to die. The Lord God was not afraid of death, because death was another journey for him. However, he was afraid of such a way of death. He was afraid of this kind of feeling that the dagger was swimming in the body, but he didn't have the right to choose to let it move forward or backward. Fang Yan used the knife to tell you that you were going to die, but you didn't know when you would die. This sense of oppression before death was a destruction of confidence and the most powerful blow to the psychological defense line. The knife stopped moving outside the pericardium, but it moved back. There were 12 barbs on the dagger, and every time it moved back, a piece of flesh would be torn from the internal organs. The twitching was also very slow, so that the Lord God clearly felt the pain of his limbs being cut by him. The Lord God finally became a little impatient and said in a fierce voice, "Pretty boy, give me a hard stab if you have the guts, let me die happily. Don't be so wishy-washy, like a woman. What kind of friendship do I have with you? Why do you make such a rude request to me?" Feng Yan said sarcastically, "I will let you die painfully but not quickly." He wanted to slowly torture the Lord God to death, just like they wanted to torture Lu Chaoga and the bodyguards and secretaries around her to death. Feng Yan turned to look at Qiang Longtan and Feng Xing, who was looking at him calmly, and said, "Don't worry, you too, it will be your turn soon. We are still on the vast sea, whether it is going to the destination you set before or returning, we have a lot of time to be together. Don't worry. Don't worry." Jiang Feng Xing put his hand in his pocket and immediately threatened, "You'd better not move, or else, I can take your life without the others doing anything." Jiang Feng Xing turned a deaf ear to such a threat. He still took out a cigarette from his pocket, put it in his mouth, lit the cigarette with a lighter, took a deep puff, and blew out a smoke bubble. After that, he looked at the Snake Lord and said, "Can't I even smoke before I die?" The Snake King stared at Jiang Feng Xing, fiddling with a small golden snake in his hand, but didn't answer Jiang Feng Xing's question. He was as sensitive as an animal, and he felt that Jiang Feng Xing was more complicated than he showed. Jiang Feng Xing was not interested in bickering with the Snake King. He looked at Feng Yan and said, "I know, you want to kill the Lord God in the cruelest way, then let us suffer in pain and arouse our fear of death. You want to kill us when we beg you for mercy. Wouldn't that give you a greater sense of achievement?" Jiang Feng Xing looked at him with disdain and said, "Winner takes all. If we lose, we lose. We won't beg you for mercy, we won't even negotiate with you. Feng Yan, I know what kind of person you are. I don't expect you to let us go, and I know you won't let us go either. Since we can't negotiate, death is our only choice. So tell me, what's the point of all this? Isn't it just death? Since we're going to die, what's there to be afraid of? What's there to be coerced?" Jiang Feng Xing looked at the Lord God with a gentle smile, eyes filled with affection, and said softly, "You go first, I'll follow you." The Lord God felt warm in his heart. He grinned and said, "I'll wait for you down there, but I hope I won't see you. Feng Xing, I'm honored to be your woman. The days with you are the happiest days of my life. Goodbye, Feng Xing." The Lord God said goodbye to Jiang Feng Xing with affection. When he was about to bite his fangs, a strong poison came from his heart. Because the pain was too great, it made his powerless body even more powerless. The Lord God's teeth were forced to stop, because he no longer had the strength to bite. A fishy taste came from his throat as blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. The dagger went straight into the Lord God's heart. The ominous glint in the Lord God's eyes faded, as did the malice on his face. He looked at Jiang Feng Xing with gentle eyes. That was the most beautiful scene before he left. His body gradually softened, then was thrown to the ground by Feng Yan, becoming an abandoned corpse. "God!" Jiang Feng Xing shouted with a sorrowful expression. "Feng Yan, you killed my God." He made to run towards the Lord God, but his feet didn't move forward. He pressed the lighter in his hand. Crack! A light, crisp sound could be heard. The Lord God's body turned into a bomb, exploding with a boom. Blood and flesh splattered everywhere, countless red and white objects covered the floor, turning the cabin into a hell of azura. The man who claimed to love had already planted a bomb in the body of the one he loved. And the engine of the bomb was the lighter in his hand. In the face of danger, he pressed the button without any hesitation. On the battlefield of love, whoever paid more would die more miserably. The Snake Lord reacted quickly, turning around and pushing Lu Chaoga and the secretary to the ground. Although the bookworm was tied up with ropes, he still rolled wildly on the ground to save his life. Jiang Feng Xing took the opportunity to turn and run towards the door. He prepared a kayak on the ship. As long as he found an opportunity, he could drive the kayak away from this dangerous place. his right hand pulled open the door of the room, and his left foot had already stepped out. However, his right foot couldn't step out. He felt a chill on his neck, and then his body was lifted back. "I said, you all have to die," the familiar and annoying man's voice said in his ear. Chapter 469. In Nejiang Lake, there was a senior surnamed Lin who had neither high virtue nor high prestige, who once said that the most important rule in Jianghu was only one word: fight if you can win, run if you can't. Jiang Fengxing wasn't a member of the martial world, and he had never heard of this man named Lin. However, he clearly understood that if he didn't run now, he would die. In order to keep the secret of kidnapping Lu Chaoga, they tried their best to reduce the number of people involved. Except for Qiang Long Tan, who was the main planner, only Jiang Fengxing and a few people he trusted were responsible for the execution. None of Qiang Long Tan's people in the Flower City were useful. Even Qiang Long Tan's son Jiang Zhulu and his steward Lu Tong knew nothing about this. Fang Yan came to Jiang Zhulio's wedding to ask for Lu Chaoga, which made Jiang Zhulu extremely angry. He believed that Fang Yan was slandering him and wanted to ruin his and his father's reputation with this, so that the marriage between the Jiang family and the Jiang family would fail. If Jiang Zhulu knew that his father was on this cargo ship, his expression would be quite interesting, wouldn't it? Now, Fang Yan and his snake-playing friend pushed open the door and walked in, which meant that the few guards outside had all been taken care of by them. Their biggest support, the main god, was already dead, and Qiang Long Tan was poisoned by the snake. What else could stop Fang Yan from taking his revenge? "Let me go!" Jiang Fengxing didn't have the strength to struggle, so he could only threaten loudly, "Fang Yan, let me go. I'm a member of the Jiang family. You better not touch me. If you dare to touch me, you will become the enemy of the Jiang family. Are you ready? Do you really want to become the enemy of the Jiang family, a lion?" "What did you just say the Jiang family is?" Fang Yan lifted Jiang Fengxing up, sneered and asked, "A lion? So what if it's a lion? Isn't it still an animal?" Fang Yan. Jiang Fengxing yelled in anger. The Jiang family was the Jiang family, respected and feared by everyone. Because he was a member of the Jiang family, everyone had to hold him high above their heads when he walked outside. To suddenly meet someone who did not place the Jiang family in his eyes, this feeling was rather unfamiliar. I don't want to be enemies with anyone, but if someone wants to hurt the people around me, I won't hesitate to make the whole world my enemy. It doesn't matter if he's a lion or a wolf, a tiger or a mad dog. This was Fang Yan's current state of mind. It was the greatest realization Fang Yixing had after dying in battle. At that time, Fang Yan was kind, passive, undisciplined, and didn't want to take on any responsibilities. He was a young man who didn't want to be enemies with anyone. However, when his father, Fang Yixing, died in battle, and when he rushed over, he could only carry his father's cold corpse back. The pain of being separated by life and death tore his body apart, causing him to grow up overnight. Fang Yan swore in his heart that he would never let the people around him leave again. "I don't want to suffer this kind of unbearable pain anymore. Fang Yan, we can talk." Jiang Fengxing's tone eased a bit. He also understood that threatening Fang Yan with the Jiang family wouldn't bring him any benefits. Instead, it would only infuriate Fang Yan even more. You don't have any irreconcilable conflict with the Jiang family. Even if two kids have a small quarrel, the elders in the family won't take it to heart. It's better to squash enmity than keep it alive. I am willing to be the middleman between you and the Jiang family to solve this conflict. In this way, we can live in peace and develop together. Isn't that great? Pluck. Fang Yan swung his hand and threw Jiang Fengxing's body onto the deck of the room. Jiang Fengxing showed a painful look. It seemed that this fall was quite heavy. "Why should I solve the conflict with the Jiang family?" asked Fang Yan. "Fang Yan." Jiang Fengxing rubbed his arm, which was hurting from the fall, and said, "Do you think that you can live a peaceful life after getting rid of us? Do you think that Dragon Pool and I are the only ones who are interested in the Rubik's Cube? You can ask Lu Xiaoga, you can ask herself. In these few years, how many times has she been in danger? How many assassination attempts has she been through? Are we the only ones who did it? Fang Yan, you have underestimated the attraction of the Rubik's Cube and your current value. Looking down at Jiang Fengxing, Fang Yan continued, therefore, I should keep you alive and ask you to help me talk to the Jiang family so that we can bury the hatchet. If I'm smart, I will also offer a part of Chaoyan Technologies shares to them. In this way, the Jiang family won't be interested in me anymore. With the protection of the Jiang family, the others who are interested in me will have to be more cautious. Am I right? Jiang Fengxing threw a sharp glance at Fang Yan and said, Chaoyan Technology has 3 major shares, and the Qin family has a great interest in them. With the Qin family, a true god, we don't need to be afraid of anything. However, it's easy to dodge a spear in the open, but hard to defend against a stab in the dark. One more friend, one more way out. You can be friends with the Qin family, but that doesn't mean you have to be enemies with the Jiang family. That won't do you any good. Chaoyan is developing fast, but it's not a good thing to be controlled by others. Besides, even if you can make billions, you have to make sure that you are healthy, and healthy, so that you can enjoy it. Am I right? Fang Yan looked at Jiang Fengxing with a meaningful smile and said, I understand what you just said. You are still threatening me, aren't you? Fang Yan, I am not threatening you. I am just telling you what kind of choice a smart man should make, said Jiang Fengxing with a sincere look, as if he was thinking for Fang Yan's sake. Why does an egg have to collide with a rock? What's the point of smashing yourself into pieces? So, as a so-called smart man, I should let you go? Fang Yan asked. Jiang Fengxing didn't answer. He thought, isn't this nonsense? I have been talking to you for so long, do you still not understand? If you kill me, won't you become a mortal enemy of the Jiang family? But if I do that... Fang Yan pointed at the driver, who was lying on the ground without moving, and said, What about him? He is only a driver, but you killed him like this. What about his wife and child? What about his parents? He is only a small person who doesn't affect the big picture. A small person shouldn't live like a small person. If I let you go, what will happen to her? Fang Yan pointed at Lu Chaoga's assistant and said quietly, She also loves her parents and family. She has a man who loves her as much as his own life. She is still so young, and has a bright future. She is not married yet, and she doesn't have children of her own. Such a little girl was humiliated by you, and almost killed by you. What will happen to her? Jiang Fengxing wanted to say that she was also a small person, an insignificant chess piece. But when he noticed the look in Fang Yan's eyes, he tactfully swallowed his words back into his stomach. He knew that Fang Yan wouldn't listen to him like this. This stupid guy, those people's life and death, what does it have to do with him? At most, he would just have to pay some money. If he killed him because of these small people, then he would have to fight against the Jiang family to the death. What's more important, can't he even tell this? Fang Yan pointed at Lu Chaoga, who was standing quietly by the bed, and said, She is my best friend, my business partner, and my very, very important family member. I don't know how much she has sacrificed for me, and I think you know it better than me. But you kidnapped her, and used the cruelest way you can imagine to deal with her. If I were to be a smart person, as you said, what would she think? Jiang Fengxing glanced at Lu Chaoga, and said in a low voice, Miss Lu is a hero among people, and the most excellent strong woman I have ever met. Besides, I know that she loves you very much. She is a smart person, and she knows what is the best for you. She can forgive this kind of thing. We can talk about any conditions, isn't that right, Miss Lu? Lu Chaoga didn't say anything. Since Fang Yan was already here, everything would be decided by him. If Fang Yan said that they should be released, she would think that Fang Yan was mature, steady, and considerate of the overall situation. If Fang Yan said that they should be killed, she would think that Fang Yan was a man who could distinguish kindness and hatred clearly, and was loyal. She would support all the decisions made by Fang Yan. She thought it was reasonable. I won't forgive you, said Fang Yan. I never believe that negotiations can solve conflicts, because new conflicts will arise after negotiations. If you throw a piece of meat to the wolf will turn around and walk away. But when the piece of meat in its stomach is gone, it will come back to you again for a new piece of meat. Fang Yen stepped on Jiang Fengxing's calf bone and said, "The best way to solve conflicts is to make it lose the courage to come back and ask for a fresh piece of meat." Fang Yen suddenly put forth his strength. Crack. A clear cracking noise came, followed by Fengxing's extremely suppressed howl. Blood veins bulged on his forehead. One of his calves had already been broken by Fang Yen, and the bone inside was broken. Fang Yen didn't take his foot back just because Fengxing's calf bone was broken. Instead, he slightly rotated his foot and released strong streams of earth brocade power. Puff, puff. Popping noises could be heard without an end. Jiang Fengxing's broken calf bone was suffering from the second wave of earth brocade power. Under the great attack of earth brocade power, the hard bone was crushed into puddles of powder. Fang Yen! Jiang Fengxing roared Fang Yan's name, but eventually he couldn't say the rest of his words. Then he directly fainted. Fang Yen looked at Jiang Fengxing, who had fainted, and said in a low voice, "If you want to be a bad guy, you should have the awareness of being a bad guy. You do everything you can. When your lives are threatened, you try to solve problems through negotiation. That's not good. It's not fair to the good guys." Fang Yen moved his foot to the other leg of Fengxing, crushing the bone of Fengxing's calf into bone powder just like what he did just now. After that, he slightly sighed in relief and said, "I'm a good man." Chapter 470. What was the feeling of fainting and waking up again? It was the feeling of hovering between life and death. The first kick of Fang Yen crushed Fengxing's lower leg bone into ashes, making him pass out immediately. The second kick of Ji Hao crushed the other leg bone of Fengxing, waking him up from the state of unconsciousness. Fengxing's face was twisted, and his forehead was soaked in sweat. His face had turned dark purple, making him look like a patient suffering from an incurable disease. "Fang Yen! You bastard! How dare you destroy me?" Only at this moment, he finally had the chance to finish the sentence that he hadn't finished before he passed out. The piercing pain from his legs struck his brain over and over again, letting him know that he had already become a real disabled man. He didn't think that Fang Yen would do this so thoroughly. Qiang Longtan's evaluation of Fang Yen was fair and honest. He had the heart of a rabbit, the IQ of a fox, the eyesight of a vulture, and the appetite of a tiger. He truly had a murderous heart. Fang Yen didn't mind Fengxing's bad attitude towards him, although he felt that Fengxing's behavior was quite ungentlemanly. With a calm look, Fang Yen looked at Fengxing, who was sitting on the ground and howling in pain, and said, "I don't care about being cursed at, but I don't like being cursed at. After all, it's not a pleasant thing." Fang Yen threw a kick towards Fengxing's arm. Crack! The familiar bone-cracking noise came once again, and Fengxing passed out again before he could even let out a scream. Fang Yen broke Fengxing's elbow in the most direct and violent way, making Fengxing's right arm powerlessly hang down. "Why didn't you kill him?" asked Qiang Longtan. His arm, which was bitten by the blind black dragon, was no longer turning black, and the venom was no longer spreading in his body. Moreover, as time went by, the venom was even fading away. Therefore, Ji Hao had roughly figured out the venom of this snake. Since his life was no longer in danger, he naturally turned his attention back to the fight between Fang Yen and Fengxing. This was another hidden gate of life and death. Fang Yan's attitude towards Jiang Fengxing had also determined his attitude towards Qiang Longtan. Therefore, Jiang Fengxing's fate was Qiang Longtan's fate. Seeing that Fang Yen had only destroyed Fengxing's pair of feet and an arm, but didn't kill him directly, he asked out loud, "Did I disappoint you?" Fang Yen turned to look at Qiang Longtan and said in a sarcastic tone, "I killed Jiang Fengxing and started a deadly hatred against the Jiang family. Isn't this better for your own benefit?" "Indeed." Qiang Longtan nodded calmly, without the slightest hint of panic or fear from an impending disaster. This man was indeed extraordinary. Even his enemies found it difficult to underestimate his tenacious nature and forbearance. He was like a harmless-looking bull that could easily gain the trust and goodwill of others. However, when you didn't take any precautions against him, he would stab your heart from behind with his sharp horn. Jiang Fengxing and I were the main planners of this kidnapping. I only used my brain, but all the executors were Feng Xing's chess pieces. If Feng Xing doesn't die, you will never be able to calm down, will you? Do you think that I will be tempted by you to kill him just because you tried to sow discord between us? Fang Yan walked towards Qiang Longtan step by step. Do you think I'm so childish? Qiang Longtan sighed slightly and said, Fang Yan, you're not childish. I haven't seen you for 3 years, and you've changed so much. You've grown so much. You've grown so much. You won't believe it, but I'm afraid of you. When you showed up at Zhulu's wedding and provoked us like a mad dog, stabbing daggers into our chests over and over again, I started to be afraid of you. I even regretted it. Why did I make such a person my enemy? If we were friends, wouldn't our Jiang family's days be a little better? At least, we would enjoy the same treatment as the Lu and Gu families, wouldn't we? Fang Yan will never be friends with someone like you. Lu Chaoge said in a disdainful voice, You say you're afraid of Fang Yan, but I'm actually more afraid of you. Qiang Longtan, there's no such thing as an impenetrable wall in the world. Even if we can't find any evidence to prove that you did it, we already have an answer in our hearts. Why do I hate you so much? Because I knew that you killed my parents a long time ago. No matter how good you are to me, it's all fake. No matter how much you do, it's all fake. How can you expect people to repay you sincerely? Qiang Longtan shook his head with a bitter smile. He looked at Lu Chaoge and said, Chaoge, for a long time, I did treat you as my own daughter. I only have one daughter, Jiang Zhulu. As you become more and more outstanding, more and more beautiful, I suddenly feel that having a daughter like you is also something to be proud of. It was selfish of me to let you marry Jiang Zhulu. If we were a real family, would you still be arguing about separating from Longtu? If you fell in love with Jiang Zhulu, would you still have the heart to split Longtu group in two? I'm getting older and older, and Longtu will eventually fall into Zhulio's hands. To be honest, if it weren't for the flower pot that fell on your balcony, if you had really agreed to marry Jiang Zhulu back then, I would have been more inclined to hand Longtu group over to you. Jiang Zhulu is already a very outstanding child. But compared to your ability, he's still a long way off. You were able to make Chaoyan what he is today in just 2 or 3 years, which has already proven my foresight. Unfortunately, Chaoge, we're not a family. This is the biggest regret in my life. Otherwise, how could I have ended up like this? Fang Yan was really defeated by Qiang Longtan's shamelessness, although he had already been defeated time and time again by Qiang Longtan's endless hypocrisy. Even now, he was still thinking of playing the family card. Fang Yan stood in front of Qiang Longtan and said, I didn't kill Feng Xing because he's more valuable alive than dead. What about you? Give me a reason not to kill you. Qiang Longtan thought for a long time and said, Killing is against the law. So I won't kill you. Fang Yan squinted his eyes and smiled. Fang Yan glanced at the Snake Lord, who understood. He pursed his lips and blew out a subtle and strange sound. The golden-striped snake in the Snake Lord's hand was driven by the sound of the snake. It immediately jumped to the ground and rushed in the direction of Jiang Longtan. Humans didn't kill people, but animals did. You can't kill me either. Qiang Longtan looked at Fang Yan without blinking. If you kill me, Lu Chaoge will die. Fang Yan looked at Lu Chaoge and saw a sharp blade pressed against Lu Chaoge's neck. Red blood seeped out of the blade of the dagger. It was the dagger Qiang Longtan had used to cut off Njing's hair and paint on her scalp. It was unknown when the dagger had landed in Njing's hands, but she was now using it to hold Lu Chaoge hostage. Don't move, Njing said with a trembling voice. You will die. Lu Chaoge's expression was abnormally expressionless as she said softly, Njing, why do you have to do this? I don't have a choice either. I don't have a choice either. My brother took a lot of money from them. My parents were taken away by them. I received a call from them the moment I woke up. They told me to repay him properly. He's a devil. I have no other choice. If you let him go, he will let my parents go. I don't want my parents to die. I don't want you to die either. I can die, but none of you can die. And Jing was undoubtedly an outstanding young lady. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been put in such an important position by Lu Chaoge. She had been promoted from a university graduate to her assistant. She was recognized by her abilities and trusted in her character. However, this was how the world was. Only the people closest to you could hurt you the most. Snake Lord stood in front of Lu Chaoga, while Lu Chaoga stood in front of Njing. Lu Chaoga felt that Njing was injured because of her. She had the responsibility and obligation to ensure her safety and do her best to bring her back. To her surprise, this position helped Njing to deliver the fatal blow. It was indeed unexpected that a girl without the strength to truss a chicken could do such a thing. Don't think it's strange. Qiang Long Tan didn't think it was something to be proud of. Or rather, he thought it was something special. We've been keeping an eye on Chaoga, but she's very sensitive and doesn't trust anyone anymore. And Jing is a pawn we can use, but we don't dare get too close to her. We're afraid that we'll alert her and make her lose her value. However, we have been in contact with her brother. All the information about her family and the main members of the family are in my hands. Fang Yen, this is the inspiration I got from you. Didn't you use this trick to get Lu Tong to join your side? If Lu Tong hadn't put on a show with you, we wouldn't have ended up in such a sorry state. Fang Yen, who do you think is truly trustworthy in this world? I trusted Lu Mingtu so much back then, but he still hid the biggest secret of the Rubik's Cube from me. Good people really don't get what they deserve. Fang Yan's expression became gloomy and cold again. He hated it when the people around him left him, so he hated all kinds of actions that could lead to horrible things. Without a doubt, Njing's betrayal made him hesitate to take action for fear of harming the innocent. No matter what reason they had, it wasn't an excuse for Fang Yan to forgive them. Chapter 471. Never underestimate your opponent at any time. Because no one knew if he had an even more powerful trump card up his sleeve. Qiang Long Tan was such a man. He was the perfect combination of a scalper and a dog. After exhausting the diligence and forbearance of a scalper, he finally jumped out and bit people like a dog. Qiang Long Tan looked at Fang Yen with a gentle smile and said, "You're a filial child. Your father died in battle, and you mourned for 3 years. This isn't something young people nowadays can do. Your father's death made you depressed for a few years, but it also made you learn to cherish your family. Chaoga rejected Zhu Lu's pursuit and focused on building a business empire for you. She's qualified to be your family, right? Fang Yen, if you let her down, how can you feel at ease?" Fang Yen was no longer in the mood to talk to Qiang Long Tan. In his eyes, this was just a dead man with a high IQ. Fang Yen stared at Njing and said, "Njing, put down the knife, or you'll regret it. If you dare hurt a single hair on her, Qiang Long Tan doesn't even need to do anything. I'll kill your parents and family." Fang Yan's face was filled with murderous intent, like a Shura demon that had just crawled out of hell. "I can't let them go." And Jing's eyes were moist and she said with tears, "I can't let them go. If they let my parents go, they'll die, they'll do anything. I can't let them go. Be quiet, don't be agitated. Calm yourself down and think about it." Lu Chaoga's voice was gentle and calm as she comforted her. This woman's aura was strong, and her heart was even more determined. Even now, she still maintained absolute calmness, as if the person with the knife against her neck was someone else. "I can understand why you made such a choice. If it were me, I'd make the same choice as you. I'm just your boss, but they're your parents. They're the people who gave birth to you, raised you, and gave you life. For them, I can understand you doing anything. But have you ever thought that even if you kill me, will he let your parents go? You've been with me for 2 years, and this isn't the first time you've dealt with people like Qiang Long Tan. You should know that he won't allow what happened today to leak out. If he escapes from here, the first thing he'll do is get rid of your parents." I know, but I..." And Jing cried even more miserably, and her emotions were close to breaking down. Her hand, which was holding the knife, kept shaking. Every time she shook, a shallow cut appeared on Lu Zhaoga's slender neck. The red blood was like a thin red line, and it was slowly spreading forward. "But I don't know what to do. I can't let him go. Boss Lu, can you ask Fang Yen to let him go?" "Lu," and Jing Lu, I Don, Lu, but Lu Chaoga sighed and said, "In Jing, don't you understand? Only by keeping him here can your parents and family be safe and have a chance to survive. If you let him go, they will only die. Whether it's for you or for me, we can't let this person go. Boss Lu, I beg you, scram." Fang Yen suddenly shouted harshly. A majestic force sprayed out from his mouth. This kind of extremely penetrating explosive sound almost burst people's eardrums. Just as Jing was about to say something, she suffered the attack of the Taoist mountain strike mantra that contained inner strength and resembled the Buddhist lion's roar. Her mind went blank for a moment, and there was a roar in her ears. When the thunder in her ears disappeared and her consciousness returned to normal, she found that she had lost the ability to breathe. His neck was gripped by Fang Yan's hand. His feet were off the ground, and he was hung in the air by one of Fang Yan's arms. And Jing was completely dumbfounded by Fang Yan's actions. She had no idea what had happened. Just now, she had clearly held a knife to Boss Lu's neck. Why was it that in the blink of an eye, her neck was being held in someone's hand? And Jing had been following Lu Chaoga and had seen many battles and ambushes, but she still didn't understand what the real underworld was. When everyone spoke, they would naturally focus a portion of their attention on the choice of words and sentences. Otherwise, no one could guarantee that their words had not expressed the meaning they wanted to express. It was the same for Jing. Just as she was seriously about to beg for mercy from Lu Chaoga, Fang Yen suddenly cast the mountain strike mantra that could confuse a person's mind and soul. It instantly froze Jing, a woman with weak willpower. 1 second or maybe only 1/100th of a second. In less than a blink of an eye, Fang Yen had already entered the Taiji domain. With a step, he flashed behind Jing with drunken crane rides the wind, snatched the dagger from her hand, and lifted her up from the ground, who was still in a daze. "I told you that you would regret it." Fang Yen exerted some strength in his palm as Jing's breathing became more rapid. Her face turned an ugly purplish red. Jing instinctively kicked with her hands and feet a few times, but her body's strength was quickly drained due to the loss of oxygen. She glanced at Lu Chaoga and a relieved smile appeared on her face. This was good too. If she died, she wouldn't have to face such a difficult choice again. Death was the best release. She looked at Lu Chaoga as her lips moved slightly, but she couldn't make a sound. However, Lu Chaoga understood and knew that she wanted to say, "Sorry." "Fang Yen, let her go." Lu Chaoga walked in front of Fang Yen and said. The killing intent in Fang Yan's eyes didn't diminish, and he didn't loosen his grip on Jing's arm. He didn't want to let Jing go, even though he sympathized with her. "She saved my life," Lu Chaoga said. Last July, I went to Huaqing Seaview Club for an appointment. When I got out of the car, a gunman sniped at me. She took a bullet for me. Lu Chaoga touched Jing's shoulder and said, "That shot was here. If it wasn't for her, I owe her my life." Plop. Fang Yen threw Jing to the ground, and she lay there coughing violently before taking deep breaths. If Fang Yen had held on a little longer, Jing would probably be a corpse that still had body warmth. Lu Chaoga saved Jing, but she wasn't as concerned about her injuries as before. "You saved my life, so I'll return the favor. You've done your part and I've done mine." But from then on, they were strangers. All the admiration, all the support, all the feelings, and all the anticipation vanished when she held a knife to her neck. Betrayal. This was the greatest harm. It was impossible for Lu Chaoga to keep a person who had betrayed her by her side. Even if she allowed it, Fang Yen wouldn't allow it. When Qianglong Tan saw how Fang Yen easily broke through his trap and saved Lu Chaoga, he shook his head and said with a sigh, "I've always despised force because I think it's the only choice for people with low intelligence. Now, I have to admit that sometimes, force is indeed the best way to solve problems. Of the 3,000 great Daos, only force is undefeatable. I admit defeat." Fang Yen didn't even look at Jiang Zhulu. Instead, he walked over and helped Lu Chaoga out of the room. Because the overgod's body had exploded, and the body was being corroded by the genetic agent. The air inside was filled with a fishy smell, and it was unbearable to look at. After Fang Yen and Lu Chaoga left, the Snake Lord's shriveled face revealed an extremely strange smile. He looked at Qiang Longtan and said, "How do you want to die? Can you give me a quick death?" Qiang Longtan looked at the Snake Lord calmly. He already knew that this moment would come. He had exhausted his mind and used up all his chess pieces, but he still couldn't escape. Now, he could only accept his fate. "No," the Snake Lord refused without hesitation. "I don't have any grudges against you, and I even like you a little. Only a heartless, ruthless, and vicious person like you is suitable to be a Snake Lord. If only you had followed Master to raise snakes earlier." "What a pity," Qiang Longtan said. It was unknown whether he was regretting that the Snake Lord didn't agree to give him a quick death, or that he didn't have the chance to raise snakes with Master. He pointed at the golden snake crawling on the ground and said, "Can you take it back? I know you won't let me die a quick death, and you definitely won't let me die easily. Can you take this little thing back? You can use any other method. If you want, I can be your straw target or play with a scarecrow. I just don't like the feeling of these little things crawling into my body. If it weren't for these little things, I wouldn't have lost so badly, right?" The Snake Lord grinned and said, "Fine. Since you don't like it, I'll take it back." The Snake Lord whistled, and the golden snake crawled into his arm. "Thank you," Qiang Longtan sincerely thanked him. Even at this point, there was still someone willing to agree to his request. He felt that his luck had always been good. "Chirp," the Snake Lord whistled again, and a chubby little snake crawled out from his body. The little snake was blood-red in color, and its entire body was made of flesh. It wriggled on the ground as if it didn't have any bones, like a dyed silkworm chrysalis. Qiang Longtan's eyes turned cold, and he had a bad feeling. "Don't be afraid, it's not a snake, it's a blood maggot," the Snake Lord said with a smile. The Snake Lord smiled and said, "It will enter your body and live in one of your internal organs. It can live for a long time. Until it can't find any food, or it gets tired of staying there, it will try to dig a hole outside. Chirp." The Snake Lord whistled again, and the blood maggot rushed towards Qiang Longtan at a speed that didn't match its body at all. It ran to the top of its shoe, and then crawled towards its upper body. Qiang Longtan tried to slap it with his hand, but missed. He jumped and shook with all his might, trying to shake off the blood maggot. But the blood maggot had suction cups under its feet, and no matter how hard he tried, it wouldn't let go. The blood maggot quickly crawled to Qiang Longtan's face, and after probing around with its tentacles, it suddenly drilled into Qiang Longtan's nostrils. Chapter 472. That soft thing very nimbly went into his nostrils. When Qiang Longtan tried to pull it out with his finger, he found that it had already disappeared. It had already entered his body through his respiratory tract, but he didn't know which organ it had fused into. "Snake Lord, why are you so cruel? Your Shifu died because of Fang Yen, yet you are now obedient to him and willing to be his dog. Are you worthy of your dead Shifu and your own conscience?" Qiang Longtan pointed at the Snake Lord and cursed. "What grudge do we have against each other that you have to ruin me and shame my corpse?" Before Qiang Longtan could finish his words, thick blood was already flowing out of his nostrils. He wiped his face with his hand, turning his face into a funny and colorful face. The Snake Lord sneered and said, "Qiang Longtan, you don't need to sow discord. No one knows better than I do how my Shifu died. I'm curious, how did you know that my Shifu was killed by Fang Yen? You will all die. Sooner or later. Either way, you will all die." Qiang Longtan had already become hysterical. Because it wasn't just his nostrils that were bleeding, his eyes, mouth, ears, and even every single strand of hair on his body was bleeding. His body didn't feel any pain or itch, and there was nothing wrong with his organs. But his 7 orifices were bleeding nonstop. This feeling of the unknown was even more terrifying. Qiang Longtan didn't want to endure this kind of torture, so he turned around and ran outside. Instead of being made fun of like a demon, he would rather end his life as soon as possible. Qiang Longtan ran to the deck and jumped into the sea without any hesitation. But The sound of water splashing could be heard as his sinful body sank into the unfathomable depths of the sea. The Snake Lord leisurely followed behind him, stood at the edge of the ship and looked at the turbulent sea, then softly said, "Do you really think jumping down will save you?" No one answered his question, because Qiang Long Tan had disappeared without a trace. "I said I won't give you a quick death, and I won't give you a quick death. The blood maggots will corrode your internal organs inside your body, causing you to bleed nonstop. The blood flowing outside will attract a large number of terrifying sharks. The shark at the front will swallow you whole. But your fate isn't over yet. Although you are in the stomach of a shark, the blood maggots are still alive. After it digests, it will escape and enter the shark's body. At the same time, the sharks will suffer the same fate as you. The dead shark will be eaten by more sharks. At that time, which unlucky shark will eat the blood maggot?" The Snake Lord sighed softly and said, "This is the blood maggots that I have been growing for 3 years. After I became a real Snake King, I became qualified to raise blood maggots. It was originally prepared for those people." Qiang Long Tan, you should first experience the infinite cycle of life and never reincarnate. Fate. The Snake Lord looked at the sea in the distance and said, "I think you will like this new and vicious thing. Because you are all the same bad people." The sea shrouded in the night was like a mysterious and boundless dark magic mirror. There was not much beauty in it, only the rolling black water and the whistling cold wind. Because it was too big, it was easy to make people feel powerless and afraid. It seemed that if they were not careful, they would be swallowed up together with the ship and never have the chance to turn over and go ashore. Although it was cold, the air on the deck was much more comfortable than in the cabin. Lu Chaoga took off her coat and covered the driver's face. Fang Yen took off his outer robe and put it on Lu Chaoga. Lu Chaoga refused and said, "I am not cold." "Put it on," Fang Yen said. He knew that when Lu Chaoga said she was not cold, she was worried that he would be cold. This woman always wanted to take care of others out of habit. This kind of small barbarism would not make a woman feel disgusted. On the contrary, it would make a woman feel warm and protected. Lu Chaoga grabbed the front of her coat with both hands to prevent it from being blown away by the sea wind and said, "Qiang Long Tan, don't mention Qiang Long Tan again. We don't know Qiang Long Tan, and we have never seen Qiang Long Tan. None of this has anything to do with us. You were kidnapped, and it was Jiang Fengxing who killed you." Lu Chaoga said with a worried expression, "Are you ready? Are you really going to declare war on the Jiang family?" Lu Chaoga was also a smart person. Fang Yen did not kill Jiang Fengxing, so he naturally wanted to squeeze every last drop of profit from this important person of the Jiang family. He would make the Jiang family pay for this kidnapping. As for the Jiang family, they no longer had the right to pay. After Qiang Long Tan died, the Jiang family, which used to be one of the 4 big families in Huaqing, completely collapsed. The Longtu group was a big fat piece of meat, but not everyone had the right to take a bite. This would depend on the game between Fang Yen and the Jiang family. This man was taking 1 step and looking 3 steps ahead. His thoughts were becoming more and more meticulous. "It's not that I want to declare war on the Jiang family, it's that the Jiang family has already declared war on me," Fang Yen said with a smile. He took out a bottle of white ointment from his pocket, unscrewed the cap, dipped his finger in the ointment, and gently wiped the wounds on Lu Chaoga's neck. The wounds were not deep, but they were still bleeding. If they were not treated in time, scars would be left on the neck. Which woman would be willing to have a few scars on their neck? When Fang Yan's finger touched Lu Xiaoga's wound, Lu Xiaoga let out a soft "hm." His body trembled slightly as if he would fall at any time. Fang Yan's finger touched Lu Xiaoga's wound. "What's wrong?" Fang Yan asked. "Does it hurt?" "It doesn't." Lu Xiaoga's cheeks were slightly red. She thought that it was fortunate that it was dark, so Fang Yan might not be able to see clearly. "It's just a little itchy, I'm not used to it, I say," Fang Yan said. He used the finger that was stained with ointment to carefully wipe Lu Xiaoga's neck. Lu Xiaoga also raised her head high, her slender neck perfectly presented in front of Fang Yan's eyes. She did not look at Fang Yan's eyes, but looked at the vast and dark sea where nothing could be seen. This is not the golden chrysalis skin-nourishing powder, it's the snow snake ointment I got from my friend. The effect of snow snake is not worse than the golden chrysalis, it's just too hard to find. Fang Yan applied it to all the wounds on Lu Chaoga's neck, then put the half bottle of snow snake ointment in Lu Chaoga's hand and said, "You keep this bottle." If there were any bumps or bumps, he would immediately apply a layer of it. After the wound is healed, there will not be any scars left, and the skin will be smooth and shiny, just like the skin of the snow snake. Lu Chaoga refused and pushed the snow snake ointment to Fang Yan's hand. "It's too expensive. I can't take it." Lu Chaoga said, "You gave your life to me, and I'll give you a bottle of snow snake ointment. What is it worth?" Fang Yan said strangely, "When did this woman become so wishy-washy?" She was not the kind of woman who would put a bottle of snow snake ointment in her eyes. "I think," Lu Chaoga's gaze swept to the distant sea and said, "maybe your technique is more professional. If you help me apply it, the effect might be better." Fang Yan was stunned for a while, then put the snow snake ointment back into his pocket and said, "That makes sense." Lu Chaoga let out a sigh of relief. Fang Yan didn't refuse, this was something to be happy about. She was willing to pay, but Fang Yan might not be willing to accept. Sometimes, there were too many scoundrels in life. "Your face is red," Fang Yan said. Lu Chaoga was a bit annoyed. This guy, he must be doing it on purpose. Fang Yan suddenly reached out and pulled Lu Chaoga into his embrace. He said emotionally, "You don't know how worried I was when I found out that you were kidnapped. Jiang Zhulu was sitting across from me at the time, and I had the urge to tear him apart. I was too scared that the people I cared about would leave me. The feeling of not being able to see you again in this life is too terrifying. Just thinking about it makes me feel cold all over and despair seep into my bones. I really can't imagine what kind of crazy things I'll do if you don't come back. Chaoga, I apologize. I admit, ever since you hid the truth from me about your aunt, I've been on guard against you. I wanted to get close to you, but there was always a barrier in my heart." "I know." Lu Chaoga lay in Fang Yan's arms tiredly and said, "I could feel it. All the responsibility was on me, so I never felt wronged. But later, you sacrificed so much for me. I left for 3 years, and you held on for 3 years. I mourned for 3 years, and you worked hard for 3 years. I thought about it peacefully for 3 years, and you fought openly and secretly for 3 years. This kidnapping was just a continuation of the previous traps. I thought, if it wasn't this time, if it was the previous time, if it was any other time in the past 3 years, if I wasn't there at that time, if you were kidnapped, would I be the biggest sinner? If something happened to you, how could I be worthy of what you've done for me? How could I live up to my own conscience? Fang Yan, this is something I'm willing to do. It's also the only thing I can do. I said that I would bring Chaoyan technology to a higher level, and I want the whole world to look up to you. If a man wants to fight on the battlefield, a woman will choose a good horse with a golden saddle and sew an indestructible armor for him. Chaoyan is your strongest armor." Fang Yan hugged Lu Chaoga tightly and said, "I won't let anyone hurt you anymore. I promise." Because Fang Yan hugged her too tightly, Lu Chaoga felt that she couldn't breathe properly and was about to suffocate. But she was really greedy for this feeling of being protected. Chapter 473. Clang. The room door was pushed open. The thick smoke that had gathered in the room finally found a way out and surged toward the door. The woman who was about to enter the room was suffocated by the smoke and started coughing violently. She stood at the door for a few seconds and waited for some fresh air to enter the room. Then she pinched her nose and walked into the room. She rushed to the windowsill and opened all the windows in the room. After the smoke had dissipated, she released her nose and said in a displeased tone, "Jiang Zhulu, why did you smoke so much? Are you trying to poison yourself to death?" The woman turned on the lights in the room and saw Jiang Zhulu smoking on the sofa in the corner of the room. Jiang Zhulu looked very disheveled. If they had not seen it with their own eyes, no one would believe that one of the famous 4 talents of Huaqing, the eldest young master Jiang, would be in such dire straits. His hair was messy and his face was yellowish. His clothes were messy and his eyes were bloodshot. He was still holding a cigarette between his fingers. The smoke flickered, and the ashes burned for a long time without being flicked away. Wine bottles were casually thrown on the ground, and the expensive carpet was burned by the fireworks, leaving holes of different sizes. It looked like a tattered rag that had been used for a long time. Jiang Shangxin raised her eyebrows and said, "Jiang Zhulu, is this how you should behave? Is this how a man should behave? If that's all there is to it, then it's too disappointing." "What did you say?" Jiang Zhulu looked up and stared at Jiang Shangxin with his bloodshot eyes. As he smoked too much, his throat was already hoarse from the smoke. "I said that you are a coward, a coward. You are very, very disappointing." Jiang Shangxin stood arrogantly at the door of the room and looked at Jiang Zhulu coldly. Jiang Zhulu pressed the cigarette butt into the ashtray and suddenly pounced toward Jiang Shangxin. Jiang Shangxin wanted to turn around and escape, but Jiang Zhulu grabbed her waist from behind. "Jiang Zhulu, you are a coward, you are a coward. Let go of me, let go of me," Jiang Shangxin shouted. However, in Jiang Zhulio's villa, those who were qualified to enter were not around and those who were here did not have the right to enter. No one would respond to Shangxin's cries. Not only did Jiang Zhulu not let go of Shangxin, he hugged her even tighter. He pressed Shangxin's body against the door and reached out to lift her skirt. He grabbed the hem of her skirt and pulled off her underwear. Jiang Zhulu didn't even unbuckle his belt or take off his pants. He just unzipped it and entered in an extremely rude and unreasonable manner. The gentleman of the past had lost all pretense, etiquette, and honor at this moment. He only wanted to find a way to vent the violence and fear in his heart. It just so happened that Shangxin was here. To him, this was the best way. Jiang Shangxin struggled with all her might, but she was far less forceful than Jiang Zhulu, who had descended into a state of madness. Rape is like life. If you can't resist, then just quietly enjoy it. Jiang Shangxin finally calmed down. As she laid her hands on the door and stopped moving, she stuck out her buttocks and welcomed Jiang Zhulio's repeated attacks. After the storm subsided, Jiang Zhulu collapsed weakly on her back. He silently lifted Shangxin's skirt up and tidied his own clothes. As a noble lady, she had to make herself appear as calm and elegant as possible. After tidying Shangxin's clothes, she turned around and helped Jiang Zhulu to zip up his pants. Then she helped him to the sofa. "I'm sorry." Jiang Zhulu lay on the sofa and said in a low voice, "There's nothing wrong with adding some spice." Jiang Shangxin said expressionlessly, "I mean..." Jiang Zhulio's mind went blank and he tried hard to think of his words. "My performance has disappointed you. All along I felt that I was very strong and calm. There was nothing that I couldn't do, and there was no opponent that I couldn't win against. Now, I know that it was all because of my father's strong support. I'm not strong because I'm strong, and I'm calm because of my father. Subconsciously, I always thought that it's okay if I don't do well. If I don't do well, there's still my father to help me and the Jiang family to support me. They will always help me get the final victory. In the past, I didn't want to admit it and always wanted to do something to prove myself. To prove to others and to my father. I want to tell them that I can do what my father can do. Now, I know that I can't do what he can do. Without me, the Jiang family won't suffer any losses. But without my father, it will be unstable." Jiang Shangxin reached into her bag and took out a lady's cigarette. She took out a stick and put it in her mouth. The thin and long stick complemented her delicate red lips and gave off a strange sense of temptation and beauty. "You haven't found them yet?" Jiang Shangxin puffed out a mouthful of smoke and asked. Jiang Zhulu shook his head. He reached out to touch the box of cigarettes, but realized that it was empty. Jiang Shangxin passed her cigarette over. Jiang Zhulu waved his hand and said, "I'm not used to it." "My father hasn't been found either," Jiang Shangxin said. Jiang Zhulio's face was full of worry and he said, "Where do you think they went? Did they leave alone or together? Why did they leave so secretly and in such a hurry? Why didn't they say anything when they left? Why didn't they leave a message?" They didn't even say anything because they didn't want to alarm anyone. They didn't say anything because they knew that they would definitely be able to come back. Where exactly did they go? Jiang Zhulu asked confusedly. Jiang Shangxin crossed her long legs and stared at Jiang Zhulu coldly. You really don't know? Jiang Zhulio's expression froze and he said embarrassedly, I only suspected it, but I didn't have any evidence to support it. Other than the kidnapping of Lu Chaoga, what else was there for them to disappear so mysteriously? You mean, the two of them worked together to kidnap Lu Chaoga? Jiang Zhulu asked in shock. Feeling sorry for her? Jiang Shangxin laughed coldly. Reaching out, Jiang Zhulu pulled Shangxin into his embrace and said, Shangxin, do you think that I would still have such thoughts at this stage? Lu Chaoga and I are already a thing of the past. You are the wife that I have officially married. How do you know that they left because of this? My father has always denied this matter and didn't reveal anything to me. My mother said so. Jiang Shangxin said, the outside world always thought that my father was highly regarded by the Jiang family because of his outstanding abilities. In fact, he was just an idiot. Because my father had some special fetishes, the Jiang family always felt that they had let my mother down. Therefore, many of the important businesses had been handed over to my mother to manage. My mother was not inferior to any man and managed all the businesses in an orderly manner. She even earned more than some of the businesses that the men were in charge of. The Jiang family couldn't push my mother away directly, so they could only push all the credit to my father. He really picked up a huge bargain. Jiang Zhulu knew that his wife, Jiang Shangxin, did not have a harmonious relationship with his father. Even the speech at the wedding was made by his mother. His father, Jiang Fengxing, did not even have a chance to speak. Now that he heard her say that his father had some special fetishes, Jiang Zhulu knew that those obscure rumors were actually true. Jiang Shangxin extinguished the cigarette butt in her hand, as if she was strangling some of her bad mood. Although my father was a bit of an idiot, he still knew to discuss with my mother before he did anything. My mother would help him analyze what he could do and what he couldn't do. This time, he left without saying goodbye, which meant that he wanted to do something that he didn't want all of us to know. Moreover, when Fang Yan made a scene at our wedding, my father dragged us away. I asked my mother about Fang Yan's motive for doing this. My mother said that flies don't stare at seamless eggs. At that time, I only thought that even my mother had been convinced by Fang Yan's vivid performance. Jiang Zhulio's expression became increasingly solemn. He looked at Jiang Shangxin and asked, if the two of them really did this together, what do you think the outcome would be? Give up, they won't be able to come back. Jiang Shangxin said, if they haven't come back now, they won't be able to come back in the future. They didn't want others to know about this secret, so they could only keep their mouths shut. They knew that if they didn't come back now, more people would be alerted. Therefore, no matter what the reason was, they would definitely rush back in the shortest time possible. Now that they haven't come back, they probably... Jiang Zhulio's eyes turned red. He was different from Jiang Shangxin. He had deep feelings for his father. He didn't want anything to happen to his father, nor did he want to end up in a tragic situation where he would never be able to see his father again. At this moment, he really hated Fang Yan and was extremely afraid of Fang Yan. This man, Fang Yan, was simply the longest nightmare of his life. Jiang Shangxin looked at Jiang Zhulu and said, I am here to see if you have made the final decision. If something happened to Qiang Longtan and Jiang Fengxing, it would prove that their kidnapping of Lu Chaoga had been exposed. Fang Yan could either kill them or use them as pawns to negotiate with the Jiang family. If Fang Yan chose the first option, the Jiang family would be in trouble. If Fang Yan chose the second option, the Jiang family's general family would face a serious disaster. If Qiang Longtan wasn't around, Jiang Zhulu would be the head of the Jiang family. What choice would he and the Jiang family's Longtu group make? Chapter 474. The so-called final decision was that the situation was not right and they needed to make early preparations. Although Jiang Zhulu was feeling uneasy because of his father's disappearance, he was not a person who liked to drag things out. He got up from the sofa and walked to his desk. He took out a document from the desk drawer and handed it to Jiang Shangxin. Sign here. Jiang Shangxin took the document and glanced at it. Then she looked up at Jiang Zhulu and asked, "You don't trust me?" Jiang Zhulu sat down and put his arm around Jiang Shangxin's shoulders. "It's not that I don't trust you. On the contrary, you are the only person I can trust in this world. My dad is gone and my mom doesn't care about the company's matters. Who else can I trust?" Jiang Shangxin pointed at a clause in the document and asked, "What does this mean?" Jiang Zhulu knew what her misunderstanding was and explained. Because of Lu Chaoga's deceit, the Longtu group had always been the battleground between the Jiang and Lu families. After that, the Jiang family mediated in the middle, and we spent a lot of money to buy back all the shares of the Longtu group from the Lu family. Now, Longtu belongs to the Jiang family completely. However, can the Jiang family still hold on under such circumstances? I can understand why you sold 49% of the shares to the Jiang family for 1 billion in cash. If the Jiang family did not stand up for you, Fang Yan and the other families would not let go of the cake of Longtu. The cake was too tempting, and the Jiang family did not have the power to protect it. They could only rely on external forces. However, why did you transfer 20% of the shares to me? Are you worried that I will leave you at this time? Husband and wife are one. Jiang Zhulu hugged Shangxin's body tightly and said, "At the wedding, I said that no matter if we are poor or rich, in health or in sickness, I will love you from the start. Shangxin, since I made a vow in front of so many guests, I will definitely keep my word. What is mine is yours. I am willing to share all my wealth and everything with you." Jiang Shangxin planted a kiss on Jiang Zhulio's affectionate face and said, "Don't worry, what's ours is still ours. No one will take it away from us." Jiang Shangxin readily signed the document and kept it in her bag. Then she said to Jiang Zhulu, "I will go back and discuss with my mom now. I will ask her to help me settle the matter of transferring the shares to the Jiang family as soon as possible." "Shangxin, it has been tough on you." Jiang Zhulu held Shangxin's hand and said with a face full of pity. After Shangxin got up and left with her bag, Jiang Zhulu walked to the window and watched as Shangxin walked to the courtyard of the villa. As if she had sensed Jiang Zhulio's gaze, Jiang Shangxin turned around and smiled at him. "Drive slowly," Jiang Zhulu instructed gently as he waved goodbye to Shangxin. She was like a sweet lover who was deeply in love and reluctant to part. Jiang Shangxin nodded and entered the red sports car that she had driven over. Very quickly, she drove away. The gentleness in Jiang Zhulio's eyes disappeared and the smile on his face disappeared. He coldly spat out 2 cold words, "Whore." Jiang Zhulu returned to his desk, took out a pencil from the pen holder, and started writing on a piece of white paper. After a long while, when the sky got darker and Jiang Zhulu thought that he couldn't wait any longer, the cell phone that was placed on the side of the table suddenly rang. Jiang Zhulu held onto the cell phone and didn't answer it immediately. Instead, he waited for the cell phone to ring 3 times before he answered the call. He said, "I have a strong smell of smoke on me. I am taking a shower." "Shangxin, what's the matter?" "I have talked to my mom. It is a must to transfer a portion of the shares to the Jiang family. However, my mom said that the energy industry is the supporting industry of the future. With the scale of the Longtu Group, selling 49% of the shares for 1 billion yuan is too cheap. She is willing to use the funds under her control to make this deal with you. Buy 30% of the shares of the Longtu Group for 3 billion yuan. Do you think this plan is feasible?" "That's great." A mocking sneer appeared on Jiang Zhulio's face. "However," he said passionately, "our mom is still the most thoughtful. If we only need to sell 30% of the shares, then I can transfer another 10% of the shares to you. In this case, the Longtu Group will still be under our control. As a married couple, we will be of one mind. Even though we have to give away a portion of the shares, if we expand our business, we will be able to make up for our losses in the future. Isn't that right, Shangxin?" Jiang Shangxin said in a gentle voice, "I believe in you. Shangxin, I miss you. Can you come and accompany me?" "Zhulu, I miss you too. However, my mom needs someone to accompany her too. My dad hasn't been found yet either. See you tomorrow then. Jiang Zhulu hung up the phone and hid in the darkness once again. He would have to live like this for a long time in the future. When Fang Yan was practicing in the courtyard, he heard a sound behind him. Fang Yan turned around and saw Lu Chaoge, who was dressed in white pajamas, leaning against the windowsill and looking down. Are you awake? Fang Yan asked with a smile. Lu Chaoge smiled and nodded. She seemed to be in a good mood. Go downstairs and eat something after washing up. Fang Yan said. I have already prepared breakfast. Okay, I will go downstairs now. Lu Chaoge said. However, she did not turn around as she looked at Fang Yan, who was practicing on the lawn. Fang Yan smiled and started to practice his drunken crane riding wind steps again. He had not been idle during the 3 years of mourning. He had thought about many problems, read countless books, understood the principles of the heart of Taiji, and understood the secrets of the drunken crane riding wind steps. The more he researched, the more he realized how profound the heart of Taiji and the drunken crane riding wind steps were. Furthermore, he realized that the two of them complemented each other. The heart of Taiji was the wind, and the drunken crane riding wind steps were the sails. When the wind blew, the sails would expand, and the body, which was a big boat, would be able to ride the wind and waves to its fullest potential. Therefore, Fang Yan had spent most of his time and energy on this in the past few years. Every day when he got up, he would walk a few laps. Lu Chaoge did not go to work for the past few days. She had been kidnapped. Both her body and mind were seriously injured. She needed some time to rest and adjust. Lu Chaoge's kidnapping made Fang Yan re-examine the relationship between the two. The estrangement between the two disappeared, and the grudge in his heart melted. He once again realized that Lu Chaoge was a very important friend to him. Fang Yan did not go to work. He chose to stay at home to take care of Lu Chaoge's daily life. Previously, these things were done by Lu Chaoge herself. It was also because she wanted to choose her favorite food that she was kidnapped after leaving the mall. Fang Yan soaked the lemon slices in warm water because Lu Chaoge drank several glasses of lemon water every day. It was said that this had the effect of detoxification and whitening, but Lu Chaoge was already so white that there was no need for whitening. Fang Yan was in charge of 3 meals a day. Breakfast was millet porridge and boiled eggs because Lu Chaoge did not like to eat fried food. Lunch was tomato scrambled eggs, scalded vegetables, or braised fish. Lu Chaoge liked to eat fish. It was nutritious and not easy to get fat. Women liked it more than meat. Dinner depended on Lu Chaoge's appetite. Whatever Lu Chaoge ordered, Fang Yan would cook. His cooking was not bad, but it was not as good as Lu Chaoge's. After Fang Yan finished practicing, Lu Chaoge had already finished breakfast and was watching TV on the sofa in the living room. Lu Chaoge looked at Fang Yan and quickly looked away. Fang Yan's whole body was wet. His clothes were sticking to his body. His thick chest was pushed up high, and his strong arms were full of masculinity. Fang Yan practiced Nigong, so the difference between him and other martial artists was very obvious. His body was not big, and he did not have obvious muscles like a bodybuilding model. But if you took off his clothes, you would find that there was not a trace of fat on his body. Every piece of his skin seemed to be carefully carved and polished. Moreover, because of the protection of qi, there was a layer of pale white luster on his body. Those who did not know would only think that this person was healthy and full of vitality. But those who knew would understand that this person was overflowing with divine light and was certainly not a villager. For Lu Chaoge, Fang Yan's outfit was a little tempting. I will take a shower and then accompany you to the yard for a walk, Fang Yan said. Okay. Lu Chaoge nodded her head and agreed. Fang Yan took a shower and went downstairs. When he was about to take Lu Chaoge for a walk in the neighborhood, he realized that there were guests at home. Jiang Shangxin, Jiang Zhulio's fiancé. The Jiang family, or rather, the Jiang family, had finally come knocking. Lu Chaoge was still watching the television and had no intention of talking to Jiang Shangxin. Jiang Shangxin sat on the sofa and drank tea. Her eyes were also fixed on the television screen, as if the program was very tempting. When she saw Fang Yan coming downstairs, Jiang Shangxin put down the teacup in her hand and stood up. She said, Mr. Fong, I want to talk to you. Fong Yen looked at Jiang Shangxin and asked, What do you want to talk about? About Miss Lu. Jiang Shangxin said. Fong Yen looked at Lu Chaoga and smiled. She is very good, there is no need to talk about it. Then let's talk about those bad people. Jiang Shangxin looked at Fong Yen stubbornly and continued. Fong Yan's eyes turned cold. He smiled and said, What do those bad people have to do with me? Why do I have to talk about them? It is such a good morning, will it affect my appetite and mood? Jiang Shangxin knew that she would be ridiculed by Fong Yen, and this treatment was completely within her expectations. She looked at Fong Yen and said, In that case, let's not talk about Miss Lu or those bad people. Let's talk about business. Chapter 475. Business. Fong Yen laughed. We can talk about this. Who would be willing to reject something that could earn them money? Fong Yen pressed on and forced Shangxin to retreat again and again. Jiang Shangxin wanted to talk about Lu Chaoga because she wanted to talk to Fong Yen about the ending of the kidnapping incident. Fong Yen said that Lu Chaoga was safe and sound and there was no need to talk about it. If Lu Chaoga was safe, Fong Yen would have the upper hand in the negotiation. Jiang Shangxin could only talk about the fate of the bad people, because those bad people were her father and father-in-law. Fong Yen could not care less, but she could not. Fong Yen still refused and said that talking about those bad people would affect his appetite and mood. In that case, Jiang Shangxin could only erase her father and father-in-law and make them a deal. Yes, the two lives of Jiang Fengxing and Qiang Longtan were the contents of their deal. How humiliating and how helpless he was. This Fong Yen really did not want to save any face for the Jiang family and the Jiang family. Jiang Shangxin looked at Fong Yen and asked, Name a price. Fong Yen walked to Lu Zhaoga's side and sat down. Leaning back slightly, he crossed his legs and looked at Jiang Shangxin, who was standing in front of him. He said, There are no outsiders in the house, why don't you speak more clearly? My emotional quotient is high, but my intelligence is not. I can't understand what you are saying at all and I will think that you are insulting me. Fong Yen. Jiang Shangxin looked slightly angry. Fong Yan's repeated provocations had indeed used up a lot of her patience. Jiang Shangxin was also a beauty that was 1 in a million. She was tall and had a height of 1.7 meters with her naked body. Her 2 slender and well-proportioned legs could instantly attract all the men's attention. She was beautiful and looked very much like a celebrity who was popular across the 3 provinces. She was slightly thinner and looked a little frail. However, women from rich and powerful families had their own elegance, which made up for this little deficiency in their bodies. I'm listening, Fong Yen said. Looking at Fong Yan's clear and deep eyes, Jiang Shangxin finally calmed down. The hostility in his heart dissipated, and he once again gathered his spirit to overcome the difficulties before him. He had almost forgotten that this was the man who caused Jiang Junling, the proud son of the Jiang family, to be rebuffed. Well, as Mr. Fong Yen said, there are no outsiders in this room, so we might as well lay it out. Miss Lu Chaoga was kidnapped, and we really want to know the truth of this matter. This matter has nothing to do with you. Why are you asking for the truth? Fong Yen asked back. Perhaps there's some misunderstanding? Do you still think this is a misunderstanding? Fong Yen sneered. If you think this is a misunderstanding, then let's end our conversation today. We don't have to do business. Jiang Shangxin clenched her teeth and said, Fong Yen, what do I have to do for you to let my father go? Your father? Fong Yan's gaze became playful and he said, Where is your father? Has he gone missing? If he has gone missing, you should call the police immediately. Why did you come to me instead of asking the police to help you find him? Fong Yen. Jiang Shangxin felt that her breathing had become uneven again. Her chest heaved up and down, outlining a beautiful arc. This woman was so skinny, but her breasts were so ample. She was indeed a rare beauty. Jiang Shangxin sensed where Fong Yen was looking at, but she did not care about it. She looked at Fong Yen with a determined gaze and said, Mr. Fong Yen, I have been honest with you, but you are not honest enough. Honest with you about what? I told you that I was the one who took your father away. Is this considered being honest with you? All right. I admit that my father was at fault in this matter. They may have been involved in Miss Lu Chaoga's kidnapping. However, Miss Lu is safe and sound now. I want to bring my father and father-in-law back. Name your conditions. Just involved. Fang Yan, if you don't even have the courage to admit your crimes, then I doubt the sincerity of your negotiation. Since you are not sincere, then there is no need to negotiate. If I want them, I will personally go to your place and get them back. Jiang Shangxin's face was as cold as frost, and her chest rose and fell even more intensely. Fang Yan passed the lemon water on the marble coffee table to Lu Chaoga and said, "Drink more water." Lu Chaoga took the lemon water and drank a big mouthful. She held the glass and continued to watch a matchmaking show on the television. It was as if she had nothing to do with what was happening in the living room. Since she had already handed everything over to Fang Yan, she gave him 100% trust. She knew that Fang Yan could handle it better than her. Fang Yan also accompanied her to watch the television and was even amused by the contents of the television from time to time. The atmosphere was warm and harmonious, and they had completely entered the world of just the two of them. Jiang Shangxin suddenly felt that she had become an outsider. "Please, I am the guest, okay? Do you guys know how to behave according to Hua Xia's etiquette? Please, I am here to negotiate with you guys. Do you guys have any business literacy? How did you guys become an existence that was ignored by others?" Jiang Shangxin walked straight to Fang Yan, stared into Fang Yan's eyes and said, "Fang Yan, I want to bring them away today." "Who?" "My father, Jiang Fengxing, and my father-in-law, Qiang Long Tan. Bring them away then." "What has it got to do with me?" "They are in your hands." Fang Yan looked a little unhappy and said, "Why do you say that they are in my hands? I have never seen them." "Fang Yan, I apologize to you." "I also sincerely apologize to Miss Lu Chaoga. I know that they are the masterminds behind the kidnapping of Miss Lu Chaoga. They have done something that is morally and legally unforgivable. They are sinners, but they are still my family. I hope that I can bring them back. You can state a condition that you are satisfied with. Please believe in our sincerity. I believe you this time." Fang Yan smiled and said. He took out a voice recorder from his pocket and pressed the play button on it. Fang Yan and Jiang Shangxin's conversation immediately sounded from the recording. From the beginning to the end, every word was recorded clearly. Fang Yan had forced her time and time again to tell the truth. When Jiang Shangxin saw Fang Yan take out the voice recorder, there was no surprise or fear on her face. Obviously, she had expected such a thing to happen. Jiang Shangxin looked at Fang Yan, who was playing with the recording pen excitedly, and said, "Since I'm here, I'm already prepared to bear all the mistakes. This thing won't be of much use anyway. If you admit to your crimes, this thing will not be of much use. If you do not admit to your mistakes, this thing will be of great use. I will get someone to post it on the internet and let the netizens all over the world download it for free. What do you think of this idea?" "Fang Yan, we can talk about the terms of cooperation," Jiang Shangxin said. She was not worried that Fang Yan would really throw the voice recorder on the internet. This was not beneficial to her side, but what good would it do to him? Fang Yan kept the voice recorder and looked at Jiang Shangxin. "It is a good thing that you have the courage to stand up and admit your mistakes on behalf of your elders. However, there are some discrepancies between the truth and what you think." Jiang Shangxin's heart skipped a beat and she asked anxiously, "What discrepancies?" Fang Yan patted Lu Chaoga's shoulder and said in an unfriendly tone, "Chaoga was indeed kidnapped by your relatives, but there is only one person who conspired to kidnap Chaoga, and that is your father, Jiang Fengxing. As for Qiang Long Tan, I have never seen him before. I don't know where he went either. Why don't you get someone to look for him again?" Jiang Shangxin's eyes turned cold and she said, "Fang Yan, did you kill him? Murder is against the law. How could I do such a thing?" Fang Yan hurriedly denied it. "Even if I feel that he deserves to die 1,000 times or 10,000 times, I will never do something like that to silence him." "How ruthless!" Jiang Shangxin sneered and said, "You hated Qiang Long Tan, or rather, you were afraid of Qiang Long Tan, so you simply killed him and put an end to everything. Then, you push the responsibility of his death onto the living. For example, my father, am I right? Qiang Longtan's life doesn't mean much to me. His death wouldn't have any effect on me. Of course, from a personal point of view, this is a very satisfying thing. If I know which hero did it, I will definitely treat him to a drink. Ask him later if it was your father who did it. If it was him, I will treat him to a drink too. The old master is doing good for the people, and he is doing good for the Jiang family. This is what the Jiang family lacks. Jiang Shangxin suppressed the anger in her and said, "We admit that we kidnapped Miss Lu Chaoga. We will also admit to Qiang Longtan's death if there is a need. Our only request is to take my father away." Jiang Shangxin wasn't stupid, and neither was the Jiang family. Since they had already determined that Jiang Fengxing and Qiang Longtan were the masterminds behind the kidnapping of Lu Chaoga, and now that Lu Chaoga and Fang Yan had returned safely, it proved that the two unlucky fellows had been controlled by someone else. What kind of evidence was better than a living witness? As long as Feng Xing and Qiang Longtan were in Fang Yan's hands, Fang Yan would always have the right to speak and take the initiative. Jiang Fengxing and Qiang Longtan were like two whips in his hands, and whenever he was in a bad mood, he would whip them in their faces. The feeling of being beaten up passively was too uncomfortable. Furthermore, they knew Fang Yan too well. They knew that he was ruthless, vicious, and would not play by the rules. He would not give the Jiang family or the Jiang family any face. Since that was the case, they might as well take the initiative and take the hostages back from Fang Yan's hands. Since they had to negotiate, it was better to talk earlier than later. Problems had to be solved, and it was better to solve them earlier than later. Fang Yan looked at Jiang Shangxin and said, "Since you are so sincere, give me 30% of the shares of Longtu Group." Chapter 476. Fang Yan. Jiang Shangxin shouted angrily. She wanted to snatch the glass from Lu Chaoga's hand and smash it on Fang Yan's disgusting face. She would only feel better if she saw Fang Yan's face blooming. Too greedy. How much was 30% of Longtu Group's shares worth? How could he have the cheek to raise such a condition? Fang Yan looked at Jiang Shangxin with a puzzled expression and said, "Why? Didn't you say that you are very sincere? Is this how you show your sincerity?" "Fang Yan, we can pay a portion of the compensation. I said that I want 30% of Longtu Group's shares." "30% is too much," Jiang Shangxin said. "It is impossible for us to get so many shares of Longtu. Jiang Zhulu will not agree to it either." At this point, she naturally had to use her beloved husband as a shield. Fang Yan grinned. His smile was soundless, but it was exceptionally frightening. Under the gaze of such a smile, Jiang Shangxin suddenly felt guilty. It was as if she would not have the confidence to say or do anything in the future. Fang Yan looked at Jiang Shangxin and said, "Qiang Longtan disappeared mysteriously and has not appeared until now. With Jiang Zhulio's intelligence, he naturally knows that something has happened to his father. If Qiang Longtan does not return, what makes Jiang Zhulu think that he can protect this family business? With the way the Jiang family does things, they should have already divided the Longtu Group among themselves, right? How much did the Jiang family take? 49%? Or 40%? Jiang Shangxin pondered over her words and said, "You have only guessed part of it. Jiang Zhulu is indeed willing to give up a portion of the shares to the Jiang family as a sign of loyalty. He hopes that the Jiang family will give them some care and help in the future. However, it is definitely not as much as the 49% or 40% that you mentioned." Fang Yan pondered for a while and then smiled even more happily. "Interesting. This is really interesting. Fang Yan, you better be rational. I came here with full sincerity. You will only scare me away with a sky-high price. Jiang Shangxin, your Jiang family, or should I say, Jiang Shangxin yourself? Your family is also a perpetrator, right? Your father called both Feng Xing and Qiang Longtan criminals. Why do you think you're cleaner than Jiang Zhulu?" "Fang Yan, I don't understand what you mean. If Jiang Zhulu didn't hand over 49% of the shares to the general family, then it means that someone is speaking up for him. Otherwise, There was no way to satisfy the greedy appetite of the Jiang family. Who was it that was speaking up for him? This person is self-explanatory, right? Jiang Shangxin, your father is also a kidnapper and a murderer. You didn't get a lesson or punishment, but you want to profit from it. If I'm not wrong, Jiang Zhulu will transfer more than half of his shares to your name, right? Jiang Shangxin remained silent. Jiang Zhulu had indeed done such a thing. Qiang Long Tan and Jiang Zhulu owned 100% of the shares of the Longtu Group. Jiang Shangxin's mother, Li Yun, used the Jiang family's investment fund to buy 30% of the shares of the Longtu Group. Coincidentally, the Jiang family was behind Li Yun. This was considered as Jiang Zhulio's proof of allegiance to the Jiang family. As for the rest of the shares, Jiang Zhulu divided them into 2 portions. He kept one portion for himself and transferred the other portion to his own name. Now, Fang Yan directly asked for 30% of the shares. That was rudely cutting away the portion that belonged to him. Fang Yan knew that his guess was correct when he saw Jiang Shangxin's expression. Fang Yan looked at Jiang Shangxin and said, "Admit that you are the murderer who kidnapped Lu Chaoge and take responsibility for Qiang Long Tan's disappearance. 30% of the shares is my lowest price. If you feel that you have committed a heinous crime and want to make up for it, we are fine with that. If you don't agree to my conditions, I will personally go to your door to get it. When that time comes, I will ask for more. A little more than I want right now." Jiang Shangxin stared at Fang Yan sharply and said, "Fang Yan, aren't you afraid?" "Afraid of what?" "You are declaring war on the Jiang family." Fang Yan squinted his eyes and smiled. He said, "You just realized it? 3 years ago, you realized it after I slapped Jiang Junling's face until it was swollen." Jiang Shangxin turned and left without saying a word. "Will they agree to it?" Lu Zhaoge asked in a low voice as he watched Shangxin leave angrily. "They will definitely agree." Fang Yan smiled and said, "They forced you out of the Longtu group back then. Now I will push you into the Longtu. Since there is a word from your father's name in it, we will take it back. Otherwise, won't we be letting down uncle's efforts? That is your Longtu." Lu Chaoge said stubbornly. Fang Yan shook his head and said, "Let's not dwell on this problem. It is ours." "All right. It is ours." Lu Chaoge smiled and said. Fang Yan took the cup from Lu Chaoge and placed it on the coffee table. He said, "Let's go, I will accompany you for a walk." But Lu Chaoge looked outside and said, "Jiang Shangxin has gone back. The Jiang family will definitely make their next move. Don't you need to make some preparations?" Fang Yan helped Lu Chaoge up and said, "Nothing is more important than accompanying you for a walk." Lu Chaoge didn't want to tell Fang Yan that she only injured her hand and that she didn't need anyone to help her up. Even the strongest woman would have moments of softness. The sexiest woman would always let men be in a state of softness. It was another autumn, and it was another chilly autumn. The leaves were falling, and the branches were desolate. Fang Yan and Lu Chaoge strolled in the backyard, which was covered with fallen leaves, and enjoyed this rare moment of peace and leisure. "Fang Yan, I thought that you wouldn't save me," Lu Chaoge said softly. "I didn't think about it." Fang Yan interrupted Lu Chaoge and said, "I didn't think about what I would gain if you weren't around. I only thought about what I would lose if you weren't around, so everything I do is meaningful." Lu Chaoge sighed softly. It's not easy to have someone who is so compatible and trustworthy in life. "So, I want to live well, and you have to live well too," Fang Yan said with a smile. "You must live well." Lu Chaoge said, "I haven't done what I promised you." Fang Yan sighed and said, "What can I do for you?" Lu Chaoge stopped in her tracks and used her hand that was wrapped in gauze to gently touch Fang Yan's face. She said, "You just have to live well." Crack! The beautiful red porcelain cup was smashed against the wall and smashed into pieces. Hot tea splashed everywhere and stained Shangxin's exposed calf. She frowned in pain. Bam! Li Yun still felt that it wasn't enough to vent her anger. She slammed her palm on the mahogany table and scolded, "Shameless kid, you're too much." "Mom, what should we do now?" It seems like my dad has really fallen into his hands. He's only using this to negotiate with us. We can negotiate, but we can't give them that much. Fang Yan said that the Jiang family is greedy, but he's even more greedy than us. How can he have such a huge appetite at such a young age? Isn't he afraid that his stomach won't be able to digest it? He really doesn't have any regard for the Jiang family. Recalling Fang Yan's detestable attitude, Jiang Shangxin said coldly, Fang Yan is adamant that he wants 30%. I think he won't accept any less than that. He also wants us to take responsibility for the kidnapping of Lu Chaoge and Qiang Longtan's disappearance. He's determined not to let Qiang Longtan come back. Li Yun was so angry that she gritted her teeth and said, Why don't we let Qiang Longtan come back? Jiang Shangxin's heart trembled slightly, but she pretended not to hear the murderous intent in her mother's words. Indeed, because her father was still alive, and because Jiang Fengxing was the one who came back, the mother and daughter were in a terrible situation. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that they were afraid of hurting the innocent. Ding! While the mother and daughter were hesitating, the visual doorbell in the house rang. Jiang Shangxin walked over to take a look. She turned around and said to her mother with an embarrassed expression, Jiang Junling is here. Why is he here at this time? Li Yun was secretly resentful and said, What else could it be? The Jiang family just doesn't trust us. Jiang Shangxin was extremely sad. This was the sad thing about women. When the news of Fengxing's accident was sent back to the Jiang family, they immediately sent important people over to keep an eye on him. Although they were also members of the Jiang family, the ones who had the final say in the Jiang family were the sons and grandsons of old Master Jiang. Women? In their eyes, they were just tools for bearing children. Jiang Shangxin looked at her mother and asked, What should we do now? We haven't decided yet. We will follow Jiang Junling's decision. Li Yun said quickly, Open the door. Jiang Shangxin pressed on the doorbell and smiled. Cousin, why did you come to Huaqing all of a sudden? Jiang Junling still looked calm and said, I was busy with some matters a few days ago, so I couldn't make it to Shangxin's wedding in time. I'm busy now, but I have to come over to give my blessings in person. Thank you, cousin. Jiang Shangxin said with a smile. I'll pick you up. She pressed the button to end the call and went to welcome Jiang Junling, who had rushed over from Yanjing with her mother Li Yun. There were a few cars parked at the entrance of the villa. Jiang Junling stood in front of the metal gate, and a large number of men in black surrounded him. Jiang Junling was extremely cautious during this trip, and the security was upgraded to the highest level. Chapter 477. Jiang Shangxin ran out to welcome Jiang Junling with a face full of joy. She was a completely different person from when she was in the house and guarded against him. Jiang Shangxin rushed forward and hugged Jiang Junling's arm. She said, Brother, I called you before the wedding. You said that you couldn't make it because you had something on. You don't know how sad I was when I heard that. Ever since we were young, our relationship has always been the best. How regretful would it be if you didn't attend such a big event like my wedding? Do you know that? I hid in my room and cried for half an hour. Now that you're finally here, I'm so happy. Jiang Shangxin reached out to Jiang Junling and said, Brother, where's the present? Don't tell me you didn't bring me a present. At this moment, Jiang Shangxin was just a little sister who was acting coquettishly and asking for a present from her brother. Every woman born in a rich and powerful family was born to be an actress. Jiang Junling took out a small box from his pocket and said, Some time ago, I went to South Africa and had a good talk with the chief of the Wolf Spear tribe. He gave me this gift. I'm giving it to you. I'm giving it to you. I'm giving you a happy life. Shangxin opened the box and took a look at it. She exclaimed, Red Dragon's Eye? The Red Dragon's Eye was a very rare gemstone. The shape of the gemstone resembled the eyes of the legendary Red Dragon. This kind of gemstone was like a family heirloom, but Jiang Junling casually gave it to his sister as a wedding gift. From this, it could be seen that Jiang Junling treated his sister very well. It was also possible that they viewed it with great importance and were plotting something big. Jiang Junling nodded and said, It's just a stone. Men don't have much interest in this kind of thing. I know you girls like it, so I thought I owed you a wedding gift, so I brought it. I hope you like it. I like it. Of course I like it. Which woman could resist the temptation of a gem? Which woman can resist the red dragon eyes? Isn't a military order too valuable? Li Yun asked worriedly. She heard the subtext in Jiang Junling's words. Men are innately not interested in such things, so what are men innately interested in? Wealthy enough to rival a country? Or was it the power to overturn the world? Li Yun did not treat Jiang Junling as passionately as her daughter, Jiang Shangxin. She was more respectful and fearful of him. This young man's influence in the general family was astonishing, and he was someone who could directly influence the old master's decision. The Jiang family's investment in land in Africa was encouraged by the general's order. He even handed over the business in this area to Jiang Junling. Jiang Junling personally oversaw Africa and became brothers with the impoverished chiefs who were sitting on a treasure mountain. He gave them luxury cars, good wine, and everything they liked. The result of catering to their needs was that they were able to bring back carts after carts of their precious ores. The profits were astonishing. Now that Jiang Junling had used a red dragon's eye, Li Yun was truly worried. Everyone knew that Jiang Junling was a business genius. He never did business that was at a loss. What did he want to take from them this time? Beauty? Li Yun's body was a little restless at the thought of this. However, she was very clear that with Jiang Junling's self-discipline and strictness, he really would not do anything too crazy. Jiang Junling took a look at Li Yun and smiled. "Auntie, it's all right. We are all a family." The rest of the people stood guard outside. Jiang Junling followed Li Yun and Jiang Shangxin into the house. Shangxin personally brewed a cup of Mount Junshan silver needles and placed it in front of Jiang Junling. She knew that Jiang Junling liked this tea. Then, she sat beside Jiang Junling, as if she was Jiang Junling's wife and not Jiang Zhuliu's wife. Jiang Junling looked at Li Yun and asked, "Auntie, how is the situation? Is there any news from fourth uncle?" Li Yun's face was full of worry. She said in her pleasant voice, "There is news, but the situation is not optimistic." What happened? Tell me about it." "I happen to be in Huaqing, I might be able to help," Jiang Junling said in a low voice. "We are all a family, we can't let outsiders bully us." Jiang Fengxing, this bastard, he actually wanted to kidnap Lu Chaoga with Qiang Longtan. Lu Chaoga was kidnapped and Fang Yan went to your sister's wedding to ask for her. "I heard about this." Jiang Junling's eyes turned cold and he said, "Fang Yan bullied the Jiang family. He will get his retribution one day." Just, who does things like this? Marriage is a big event in a woman's life, and a wedding is the dream that women look forward to the most. In the end, it was ruined by Fang Yan. Because of this, your sister cried for a few days. After the wedding, your fourth uncle and Qiang Longtan disappeared mysteriously. We couldn't find them no matter how hard we tried. You know your fourth uncle's character, he would more or less discuss it with me when he encountered something, but this time, he didn't discuss it with me. After that, Lu Chaoga came back. Your fourth uncle and Qiang Longtan didn't appear, so we knew that they might have been controlled by someone. Maybe this is a show put up by Fang Yan? Jiang Junling asked. I thought so too. But now that she is in Fang Yan's hands, what can we do? Aren't we just going to listen to what others say? Fang Yan's conditions must be very hard to accept, right? Brother, how did you know? Jiang Shangxin exclaimed with her eyes wide open. Jiang Junling touched Jiang Shangxin's head and said with a smile, I knew a long time ago that he has good teeth, 30%. Li Yun said. He wants 30% of the Longtu Group's shares. Jiang Junling nodded and said, Indeed, it suits Fang Yan's taste. How are the shares of the Longtu Group being divided now? Li Yun didn't respond to Jiang Shangxin's gaze, she only looked at Jiang Junling sincerely and said with a smile, Zhu Lu is also tactful and is willing to transfer 49% of the shares to the Jiang family. But I thought that since his father is gone and they still have to live in the future, I made the decision to only ask for 30% of the shares. You have a good relationship with Shangxin. Can you speak up for Shangxin on this matter? Jiang Junling agreed with a smile and said, "As an elder brother, I will not shirk from this matter. How can an elder brother and younger sister fight over the assets? Since Aunt has already thought of the distribution plan, then let's do it this way." "Brother, thank you." Jiang Shangxin thanked him happily. But now, Fang Yan wants 30% of the shares. This huge sum? Are we going to give it to him or not? Jiang Junling didn't answer this question. Instead, he picked up the teacup in front of him and savored the fragrance of the Lao Jun tea. Jiang Junling didn't speak, so Li Yun and Jiang Shangxin didn't speak either. The house fell into silence. "What do you think, Aunt?" Jiang Junling looked up at Li Yun and asked. "I haven't thought about it yet. I'm anxious." Luckily, the military order came. Li Yun looked at Jiang Shangxin and said with a smile, "We will listen to the military order and make the decision." Jiang Junling held the teacup in his hands and muttered for a while, "We still have to save them. How could a general abandon his own family? We will be laughed at if word gets out." "I understand," Li Yun said. "Then I will ask Zhu Lu to take out some shares? I will talk to him," Jiang Junling said. He put down the teacup and said, "I will go out for a walk and meet my old friends in Huaqing." "Military order, take care of your safety," Li Yun reminded him from behind. Jiang Junling stopped in his tracks and turned to look at Li Yun. He said, "Is there any place that the Jiang family can't go?" Li Yun smiled and nodded. "Of course. However, it's always good to take care of your safety. You are the lifeblood of the Jiang family. Even a scratch on your skin would be an earth-shattering event." Jiang Junling smiled and said, "Aunt, you have to take care of your health too. Don't worry, I will definitely bring forth Uncle back." "I believe in the military order," Li Yun said gratefully. Jiang Junling got into the car and left. Jiang Shangxin only walked to her mother when the convoy was far away and couldn't be seen. She asked, "Mom, can he really bring my father back? Who can guess what he is thinking?" Li Yun let out a heavy sigh. When facing the general's order, the other party gave her an immense pressure. She felt that it was hard to breathe. Seeing her mother's greedy breathing, Jiang Shangxin smiled and said, "He is getting scarier." In the past, there were still traces of him. Now, I don't know what he is thinking. That Fang Yan is really a weirdo. How could he force someone to such an extent? Let's wait and watch the show. Li Yun said calmly, "Didn't he fly to Huaqing at this point in time to regain the face that he lost 3 years ago? Are we really going to let Zhu Lu take out another 30% of the shares? If we give 30% to the Jiang family and another 30% to Fang Yan, how much will we get?" Li Yun hugged her daughter's shoulders and said, "Things have changed. We will not get involved. As long as you and Jiang Zhulu are still together, what is yours will still be yours in the future." "Mom, I know." Jiang Shangxin hugged her mother's arm tightly and said, "But how did the Longtu group fall apart? It is really hard to predict who will end up with it in the future." Sigh, Qiang Long Tan has always been smart, but he turned the tables on this matter. "If I had known earlier, I would have stopped you from marrying Jiang Zhulu. There were so many twists and turns in this marriage. In the future," Jiang Shangxin hugged her mother's shoulders and said, "Mom, women like us? How can there be happiness?" For some reason, the image of Fang Yan passing lemonade to Lu Chaoga and the two of them snuggling together to watch a matchmaking show suddenly appeared in Jiang Shangxin's mind. "The most romantic thing I can think of is to grow old with you. Has Lu Chaoga found the happiness that she wants?" Jiang Shangxin started to be jealous of Lu Chaoga for no reason. "We are the same woman. What I don't have, why would you have it?" Chapter 478. Longting Tower, Longtu Group Headquarters. Since his father, Qiang Long Tan, wasn't around, Jiang Zhulu had been sitting in the CEO's office of Longtu Group for the past few days. Qiang Long Tan was the well-deserved leader of Longtu Group. He was also the spiritual idol of nearly 10,000 employees in Longtu Group. Since the establishment of Longtu Group, he had led the employees to create one miracle after another. Qiang Long Tan hadn't been to the company for 3 consecutive days, which naturally caused a certain degree of disturbance in the company. In particular, some of the senior managers who had a close relationship with Qiang Longtan kept calling the CEO's office and Jiang Zhuliu's phone to ask about Qiang Longtan's whereabouts. Jiang Zhulu couldn't shirk the responsibility, so he had to stand up and take on the heavy responsibility. On the first day of work, he called for a senior meeting to explain to the public that his father wasn't feeling well and needed to rest for a period of time. Only then did the unstable wave of rumors settle down, and all kinds of rumors finally subsided. Jiang Zhulu was very busy. He never thought that being the leader of Longtu Group would have so many things to do. When his father sat in this position, he would leisurely drink tea, read quietly, go to work on time, and accompany his mother for dinner every night. Why did he have so many things to deal with? Why did he have so many decisions to make? Soon, Jiang Zhulu understood the cause of the matter. Even if he and Jiang Longtan were father and son, and he had inherited the foundation that his father had single-handedly built, Jiang Longtan's position was different. However, could he also trust the people that his father trusted? Could he also use the people that his father used? He thought so, but did those people think the same? They didn't dare to make decisions that should have been made by them, so they sent them to Jiang Zhulu to handle. They didn't dare to make decisions that should have been their responsibility, so they sent them to Jiang Zhulu. Everything was done by Jiang Zhulu, and all the decisions were made by Jiang Zhulu. How could he not be tired? Although Jiang Zhulu found the crux of the problem, he still didn't make any changes. He read all the reports that his subordinates sent him. He would give answers to his subordinates' reports. In this matter, they weren't wrong, and neither was Jiang Zhulu. Back then, his father trusted them, so he delegated power to them. Right now, Jiang Zhulu was walking the same path as his father. First, take back the power, then give it back to those who are trusted by him. Don't underestimate this process. It was a simple process that could win over the loyalty of smart people and let them clearly know who was in charge of the Longtu Group. Jiang Zhulu had already made preparations to take over. He knew that his father would never come back. Mr. Jiang, Luo Jiebin, the head of JEC's research lab, would like to report to you the research direction of Fire Phoenix's second phase. Mr. Kai Mingliang, the chairman of Longxing Company, has come to visit. He wants to talk to Mr. Jiang about the three-phase cooperation. Another Mr. Jiang came to visit. He said he's an old friend of yours. Wait. Jiang Zhulu looked up from the pile of reports in front of him and asked the confidential secretary, "What did you just say?" A Mr. Jiang came to visit. He said he's an old friend of yours. The confidential secretary, Jiang Liang, reported again. He was the secretary of the previous boss, Qiang Longtan. He hadn't gained the trust of the person in front of him yet. Therefore, he was still a little nervous when facing him, but he hid it very well. Seeing that Jiang Zhulu was very concerned about this matter, he said, "Mr. Jiang is drinking tea in the living room." Jiang Zhulu hurriedly threw the pen in his hand on the table, pushed the chair away, and walked outside. He said, "Take me to him." Jiang Liang didn't ask why. He turned around and led the way. When Jiang Zhulu arrived at the living room, he saw Jiang Junling sitting in the public living room of the CEO's office, drinking tea. There were a few people waiting to see him. They didn't know Jiang Junling's identity and were chatting with each other. No one paid attention to Jiang Junling and treated him as an outsider. Seeing Jiang Zhulu come out, the few people who were waiting quickly stood up to greet him. Jiang Zhulu nodded and smiled at them. He walked straight to Jiang Junling and stood beside him. He said respectfully, "Master, why are you here? If there's anything you need, just let me know. I'm familiar with Huaqing, so it's convenient for me to drive to see you." Jiang Junling put down the teacup in his hand and said with a smile, "If I don't come to see, how would I know how much energy Jiang Zhulu has stored and how much ambition he's suppressing? Not bad. It looks like you're in a good state." Jiang Zhulu was startled inwardly, but he didn't show it on his face. He said with a smile, "I've let Master see a joke. My father isn't feeling well, so I came to help him deal with some side work. The real important matters are still up to my father to decide. Master, do you want to come to my office?" Jiang Junling got up and said, "Then let's go and have a look." Jiang Liang didn't know Jiang Junling's identity, but from Jiang Zhuliu's attitude toward him, he could tell that this person had an extraordinary background. Hearing that they were going to the boss's office for a discussion, Jiang Liang quickly led the way and helped open the office door. After waiting for Jiang Junling and Jiang Zhulu to come in, Jiang Liang immediately went inside to make tea. After he quickly finished serving them, he quietly left. Jiang Junling looked at Jiang Zhulu and said, "Zhuliu's mental state is very good. This is the quality a man must have to achieve great things." Jiang Zhulu forced a smile and said, "I'm not afraid of master laughing at me. I can pretend in front of others, but I have to tell the truth in front of master. I don't have any confidence right now, and I'm still hanging in the balance. My father's life or death is unknown, the company's undercurrents are surging, and it's extremely unstable. Rumors and slanders are bewitching people's hearts. Things keep happening one after another, and I can only force myself to not let this frame fall to the ground with a loud bang. The Jiang family won't fall. There's still Zhulu. Longtu won't fall either. The Jiang family still exists." Jiang Junling softly comforted him. Jiang Zhulu was very excited after hearing Jiang Junling's attitude. The burden on his body was immediately lifted. Although he had put on an act and given away 49% of the shares with a wave of his hand, it was still unknown whether the Jiang family would accept it or not, and whether they would protect the Jiang family after accepting it. Now that an important figure from the Jiang family had stood out and said that the Jiang family and Longtu wouldn't fall, it meant that they had accepted his kindness and kneeled to him. From now on, the Jiang family would be a subsidiary of the Jiang family. Of course, they would be a subsidiary after he and Jiang Shangxin got engaged. However, the Jiang family had a lot of autonomy at that time, and they could bite back at the main family at any time. Now that the Jiang family was in danger, they could only rely on the Jiang family. They would bite whoever the Jiang family wanted them to bite. They were just a family of dogs. "Thank you, master." Jiang Zhulu stood up and bowed deeply to Jiang Junling. Don't underestimate Jiang Junling's simple words. He had saved the Jiang family and Longtu. Jiang Junling didn't hide it or beat him up. Instead, he gave him such a big gift the moment they met. Whether it was sincere or not, he was sincerely grateful to Jiang Junling and the Jiang family. At this moment, Jiang Zhulu was in a state of isolation and helplessness. Even a little spark could warm his ice-cold chest. Jiang Junling held the teacup and drank his tea. He smiled and said, "We will be family in the future. You don't have to be so polite." Jiang Zhulu returned to his seat and asked Jiang Junling, "Master, why did you come to Huaqing this time?" "To settle things." Jiang Junling said, "Bathing in the Huaqing pool during the chilly spring, the hot spring water was smooth and smooth. Under the shade of the maple trees, there was a hot spring that was emitting white mist. The spring water gave off a strong smell of sulfur. It was obvious that it was natural underground spring water. The October maple leaves were as red as fire, and the red leaves that covered the mountains and plains were burning like flames. Layer upon layer, like the waves of a sea of fire, spreading to the surroundings. Pieces of red leaves fell into the pool, becoming decorations for the white medicinal soup. Red and white alternated, forming a beautiful and moving picture scroll. Splash. The young girl in the spring gently shook her arms, and the water splashed. The green mountains were full of emotions, but the girl in the pool was even more so. The maple leaves were beautiful. The girl was even more beautiful than all the maple leaves on the mountain combined. The young girl stood up from the pool. The light muslin on her body could hardly conceal her curvaceous figure, causing her perky breasts and flat abdomen to be faintly visible among the green trees and red leaves. It was a great advantage to all the tree gods and grass immortals in this world. A black-clothed woman silently walked over and draped a white cloak over the girl's body. The girl took the towel and wiped the water from her hair. She asked, "What's new now?" Qin Xiaofeng has been buying up film and television stocks. Today, he spent 1.3 billion renminbi in one day. However, this method of making quick money through insider information is still a small trick. It can't be relied on, the black-clothed woman replied. Xiaofeng has a good sense of smell. Fighting Star Corporation is about to go public, which will affect the stock market of the entire film and television industry. Wanong Energy's chairman, Mr. Wang Tong, wants to visit you. They still aren't willing to give up the opportunity to represent Chaoyan Energy. Tell Wang Tong to go to Huaqing and talk to Lu Chaoga. Only she has the right to decide. I won't interfere. Yes. I'll talk to Chairman Wang, the black-clothed woman replied. Jiang Junling went to Huaqing. Huaqing? The girl stopped drying her hair. After thinking for a bit, she smiled mockingly and said, Fang Yan just went to Huaqing, but he already couldn't wait to chase after him. Just how low does he feel that he's in such a hurry to regain his lost confidence? The black-clothed woman stayed silent. This was something the girl could say, but she couldn't say. The girl continued drying her hair and said, I should also go to Huaqing to take a look. I've been away for 3 years. I really do miss it. Chapter 479. The hardest thing in life is to make a choice, Lan Shangu said with a sigh. Blue Mountain Club. Lan Shangu stood at the entrance of the club with a calm face and a gentle and happy smile on his lips. But inadvertently, a trace of deep worry appeared in his eyes. This made the assistant beside him very puzzled. This young master had single-handedly facilitated the cooperation between the Lan family and Chaoyan Technology. As Chaoyan Technology's Little Flame products sold well all over the country, the Lan family, as one of the 3 major agents, also made a lot of money. He was originally the focus of the Lan family's training. After this successful investment, he could already be confirmed as the next candidate for the Lan family's helm. Shouldn't he be enjoying his carefree time? What else was there that made it so hard for him to let go? Lan Shangu was indeed very worried, and this kind of suffering couldn't be poured out to outsiders. The 2 big brothers, Fang Yan and Jiang Junling, wanted to negotiate, but chose the Blue Mountain Club as the venue. Others didn't know the relationship between the Lan family and the Blue Mountain Club, but it was impossible for Fang Yan and Jiang Junling not to know. Originally, Lan Shangu wanted to pretend that he didn't know about it. If they wanted to negotiate, then let them talk. But now that both sides had greeted him, he couldn't hide anymore. On one side was a famous young master in the capital, one of the most core figures of the Jiang family. Even with the Lan family's current status, there was no way to compete with such a giant. On the other side was a new upstart in the business world. Although he didn't show himself, and even the financial circle didn't know about his existence. However, as one of the most important partners of Chaoyan Technology, how could Lan Shangu not know about the relationship between Lu Chaoga and Fang Yan? How could he not know about the relationship between Fang Yan and the Qin family's eldest daughter, Qin Etian? How could he not know who the real boss of Chaoyan Technology was? This pretty boy who only knows how to be soft-spoken. A dragon and a tiger, Lan Shangu couldn't afford to offend either of them, and he didn't want to offend either of them. But why did you drag a small character like me into the fight between dragons and tigers? If you want to fight, go to Sword Peak. If you want to scold, go to the top of Shisha Mountain to scold. Why did you drag me into this? Did the poor deserve to be bullied by the rich? Poor people also have dignity, okay? His heart was filled with sorrow, but he still had to force a smile. Lan Shangu felt that he was a prostitute in a nightclub who drank with the customers with her bare chest and thighs. While she was cursing Fang Yan and Jiang Junling for being unkind, a luxury car stopped in front of the clubhouse. Lan Shangu quickly walked down the stairs and opened the door for him. He smiled and said, "Long time no see, young Master Jiang. You haven't been to Flower City for a few years, right?" Jiang Junling shook hands with Lan Shangu and said with a smile, "I don't dare to come here often." By saying that, young master, you are criticizing our Flower City for not doing a good job in receiving guests. This time, we will learn our lesson and treat you well. We will let you have a new understanding of our Flower City. Lan Shangu purposely changed the topic and said with a smile. How could such a small trick escape Jiang Junling's eyes? He held Lan Wudu's hand and smilingly said, "Wudu, you and I are now estranged. In the past, when we were in Beijing, we would still go out to drink and chat when we had nothing to do. Now that we've met, you're starting to set an official standard? Lan Shanggu's expression changed as he smiled and said, "Young master, if you have time, I can send you an invitation right now. How about we two brothers have a good drink and chat today? I've already rejected everyone else's appointments. Whoever dares to compete with me, I'll dare to fight with them." Jiang Junling laughed and said, "That's right. You've always made me feel regretful in my heart. We used to be good friends. How could we lose you all of a sudden? It's good now. I like your boldness that you're not afraid of anything." The two of them entered the clubhouse's top-notch, Lanshan private room. Other than an old man in sunglasses who followed them in, the others automatically left. Lan Shanggu's assistant helped arrange it. A beautiful girl in palace attire performed a tea ceremony on the spot. A cup of fragrant, colorful tea was served to the guests before the beautiful girl in palace attire bowed and left. Lan Shanggu made an inviting gesture and smilingly said, "I know that young master likes to drink Lao Jun tea. When I go back, I've asked for all the treasures of our old man, young master, have a taste." Jiang Junling picked up the teacup and took a sip. He smiled and said, "This year's new tea was picked before the first rain before the Qingming festival. Only the tender tea core was taken, and the virgin leaves were washed and dried. Then, it was hand stir-fried. The leaves, heat control, and stir-frying techniques are all top-notch. Together, it's a peerless product. When I'm free, I'll visit the old man and ask him for a cup of good tea to drink. Then the old man will be so happy that he'll have to show off his tea skills in front of you." Lan Shanggu smiled in response, but he was secretly vigilant. Jiang Junling wanted to visit the Lan family's old man. He wouldn't believe that he didn't have any other intentions. However, the Lan family now had Chaoyan technology as their cash cow. It wouldn't be easy for them to make the Lan family change their ways, right? Jiang Junling held the teacup and looked at Lan Shanggu thoughtfully. He said, "I came 20 minutes earlier than the agreed time because I wanted to have a good talk with you. It's hard for everyone to meet each other now. It's even harder to sit down and have a good talk." Lan Shanggu knew that he couldn't avoid it anymore. He looked at Jiang Junling and said seriously, "Young master, what do you want to say? I'm listening." "You can't just listen with your ears. You have to talk with your mouth. Think carefully with your heart and brain. Valley, I know that you're working very well with Chaoyan now. As the saying goes, blocking someone's path to wealth is like killing their parents. I definitely won't do this kind of thing. What I want to talk to you about is that our Jiang family is preparing to invest a huge amount of money and resources into Longtu. We want to make Longtu's territory bigger and stronger and become a world-class energy company. Are you interested in joining in?" Lan Shanggu fell into a short silence. It wasn't a blatant attempt to rope him in. Instead, it was a more brilliant way to divide him. Jiang Junling knew that it was impossible to completely separate the Lan family from the alliance of interests that Lu Chaoga had helped Fang Yen to create. This was because there were huge benefits involved. Their future development was limitless. Even the Jiang family was very tempted by this. However, if he was allowed to earn benefits from this alliance of interests, and if another huge benefit was placed in front of him, what choice would the Lan family make? Jiang Junling's thoughts were very simple. He couldn't rope the Lan family in for his own use. He also didn't want the Lan family to be used by Fang Yen. This way, Jiang Zhulu wouldn't have to make enemies in Huaqing. Longtu Group's situation would also be much more relaxed. Li Yun reminded Jiang Junling to be careful in Huaqing. This was because they knew very well that the current Huaqing was no longer the Huaqing of the past. If Fang Yen was willing, he could do many things that would harm Jiang Junling's actions. It was precisely because he understood this that Jiang Junling was so angry at Li Yun's reminder. Sometimes, the truth really hurt one's pride. Faced with the bait that Jiang Junling threw out, Lan Shanggu was indeed a little hesitant. Although they were now the agent of Chaoyan technology, would they still be in the future? If they no longer had any value, would they be kicked away by Chao Yen and Fang Yen? If they invested in Longtu Group, they would become an important partner of Longtu Group. Everyone would share the glory and disgrace and work together. Who dared to say that Longtu didn't have any chance? Moreover, even if Chow Yen became the world's number one, so what? Who could say that the world's number two company didn't make money? After Jiang Junling threw out this bait, he didn't say anything else and waited patiently for Lan Shanggu's answer. Lan Shanggu's mind spun like lightning, constantly considering the pros and cons of various options. After a long time, Lan Shanggu finally made up his mind and said, "Young master, this matter is too important. I have to discuss it with my family. I think they are more mature than me, and their foresight is also more far-sighted. They will give a more accurate judgment." Jiang Junling's eyes trembled slightly, then returned to normal in an instant. Although Lan Shanggu didn't say anything definite, he had already rejected Jiang Junling's suggestion in person. In other words, between him and Fang Yen, he chose Fang Yen. Moreover, he followed Fang Yen with a resolute and decisive attitude. This kind of person, if you can't be a friend, then you can only be an opponent. "I understand." Jiang Junling nodded and said. Then he held his teacup and drank his tea, no longer saying anything. Jiang Junling didn't say anything, and Lan Shanggu didn't say anything either. The sound of chattering and the fragrance of tea was quiet. But the air in the room was about to freeze. Time flew, and when it was almost time to meet, Lan Shanggu stood up and said, "Young master, please wait a moment. Young Master Fang is here, I'll go welcome him." Jiang Junling didn't reply. Since Lan Shanggu had already made his choice, it was reasonable for him to give Fang Yen enough respect at this time. Lan Shanggu didn't wait for Jiang Junling's response, and pushed the door open and walked out of the room. When he stood at the entrance of the club again, his mood was a lot better for no reason. Lan Shanggu felt his heart calm down. The most difficult thing in life was to make a choice. When you make a choice, many things will suddenly become clear. A GMC limousine stopped at the entrance of the club, and Lan Shanggu quickly walked down the steps. After opening the door for him, he smiled and said, "Young master, Jiang Junling has been waiting for you for a long time. I thought you stood him up and wouldn't come today." Fang Yen jumped out of the car first, then turned around to help Lu Chaoga get out. Only then did he greet Lan Shanggu and said with a smile, "I'm a little late. Chaoga has a bad hand, so I've been doing the grocery shopping and cooking these days. How was the braised ribbonfish today?" "It was a little salty," Lu Chaoga said. She was wearing a silver suit and a sky blue silk scarf around her neck, and the beautiful bow just happened to cover the wound on her neck. Her fluffy hair was combed into a phoenix tail. The phoenix tail was slightly curled, making her neck look slender and delicate. Her snow-white chest made people gulp involuntarily. That heart-shaped waterdrop pendant was the happiest jewelry in the world. "I don't want to use too much salt to cover up the fishy smell," Fang Yen explained seriously. "What do you want to eat tonight? I'll make you a ribbonfish soup. It'll be a little lighter, but I want the freshness of the fish." "Okay," Lu Chaoga said. "And the mapo tofu we had this afternoon." "No problem." Fang Yen held Lu Chaoga's arm and said, "The prices have gone up again. Let's go in and ask for some money to buy groceries." One side was trying to bribe people, while the other was talking with his girlfriend about how to cook and buy groceries. Who was the real winner? The answer was obvious. Lan Shanggu laughed and said, "We'll have to ask for some money. We can't afford to ask for less." But he was thinking that a pretty boy like Fang Yen was already a winner in life. Chapter 480. Under Lan Shanggu's lead, Fang Yen supported Lu Chaoga into Lan Shan's private room. When the old man in sunglasses saw Fang Yen, he raised his eyebrows slightly and his expression tightened. Jiang Junling sensed the strange expression of the old man beside him and glanced at him, then turned his gaze to Fang Yen. Fang Yen supported Lu Chaoga to sit down and greeted the old man in sunglasses sitting opposite him, saying, "I haven't seen you for 3 years. Are you still in good health?" "Very good," the fisherman said. He looked at Fang Yen and said in a sincere and caring voice, "Is your grandfather well?" Fang Yen smiled and said, "If you want to know whether he's well or not, why don't you go to Swallow Dock and have a drink with him?" "I don't dare to go." The fisherman sighed softly. "You know your grandfather's temper. If I go, he'll definitely scold me badly. I've lived for so many years, and this is the only face I can use to fool people. If it falls on the ground, how can I pick it up? Also, your grandfather doesn't want to see me right now. Old Fong has always been strong and likes to compare himself to others. He's in his twilight years, but he has to send off a black-haired person. He doesn't feel good about it. Why should I go and stab him? Fong Yan's expression was solemn and he showed unprecedented respect to the fisherman. He said, "You are my grandfather's old friend of many years. The people who understand him the most are you old friends. My suggestion was too frivolous. Please don't blame me, old man." The fisherman waved his hand and said, "I don't blame you. If I wanted to, I would have done it long ago. We each have our own standpoints, and we each serve our own masters, so we won't quarrel when we meet. When I feel like I'm about to leave, I'll go see old Fong and have a good drink with him. I'll listen to him scold me to his heart's content. That's the real joy then." "I hope that day will come later," Fong Yan said with a serious expression. Jiang Junling didn't feel jealous at all when his subordinates were fighting with the enemy. He listened to their conversation with great interest, as if he were one of them. Lan Shanggu also felt that the atmosphere was really strange, but he tried his best to keep a low profile and reduce his presence. After summoning the beauty in the palace dress to brew a pot of Longjing tea, she said to Fong Yan, "Young master, I'll go out to entertain them. Shall we have dinner here tonight?" "No need," Fong Yan refused. "If I eat here, you'll have to sit with me. If I busied myself with eating, I felt disrespectful to you, the host. If I keep thinking about what to say to you, I won't be able to eat smoothly. There's still leftovers at home. I'll go back and cook a few dishes." He wouldn't eat out. "You don't have to leave, just be a witness." Lan Shanggu nodded and said, "Young master cooking personally, it's very romantic." Fong Yan wouldn't let him leave, so he could only find a corner to sit. Jiang Junling looked at Fong Yan and said with concern, "Just now, the fisherman said something. The white-haired person sending off the black-haired person, this is the greatest tragedy in life. The dead are gone, and the living are like this. Nothing is more sad than to ruin one's life." Fong Yan's eyes trembled slightly as he looked at Jiang Junling and said, "This is indeed a sad and despairing matter. You clearly feel that you can control everything, but you can only watch as your loved ones die in front of you. If it's possible, I hope that this will only happen once in my life. What I've experienced has been experienced by others before, and in the future, there will be people who will experience it. If it's not someone else, it will be you. Fate is really a mysterious thing. Once the sickle in the hand of the Grim Reaper points at you, you can't run or hide. So, living like this is only one aspect. The key is to be strong, to accumulate virtue and do more good while you're alive. If you do too many bad things, the Grim Reaper's sickle will naturally hook onto your neck." Fong Yan used his own experience to point the spearhead at Jiang Junling. "Those who do too much evil will bring about their own destruction. What happened to me will also happen to others. This kind of tragedy will never be the last time it happens. If the Jiang family still doesn't know how to stop and keep doing such immoral things, the Grim Reaper's sickle will definitely stretch onto their necks. At that time, even if you regret it, it will be too late." Jiang Junling nodded in agreement and said, "That makes sense. Filial piety, loyalty, trust, propriety, justice, integrity, and shame. If any of them are missing, it will be difficult to support a person. Accumulate virtue, do more good, and do less bad things, then there will be peace at home and abroad." Jiang Junling retorted bluntly. The hidden meaning in his words was that if Fong Yan hadn't done too many bad things, no one in his family would have died tragically. If he still acted willfully and recklessly this time, then there would be no peace at home and abroad. Fong Yan was threatening Jiang Junling, and Jiang Junling was also threatening Fong Yan. As soon as they came into contact, swords were drawn. Lan Shanggu wished he could stick his head into his pants. Once again, he regretted sitting here. Why didn't he pretend to be dead and go to the hospital? Why didn't he say that he needed to change sanitary pads when he was on his period? Even if he was beaten twice on the head, it would still be much more relaxing and enjoyable than sitting here and watching Fang Yan and Jiang Junling stab each other. Lan Shanggu felt that he was really too pitiful. Fang Yan held a cup of Longjing tea in his hand, looked at Jiang Junling and said, "If I were you, I would definitely not be stupid enough to provoke a powerful opponent at this time." Jiang Junling calmly looked at Fang Yan and said, "When friends come, there is good wine. When enemies come, there is a hammer. Friend or enemy, I know very well." But Fang Yan raised his hand and splashed the cup of Longjing tea at Jiang Junling, who was sitting opposite him. Whoosh! The tea was like an arrow, piercing toward Jiang Junling's face. The old man in shades moved like a goshawk. With a wave of his wide sleeves, the cup of Longjing tea was taken away without a drop of rain. From beginning to end, the General Ling sat steadily in his original position, not showing any signs of panic or anger. He was like an emotionless stone Buddha. The old man in shades was on guard, but Fang Yan didn't make any further moves. Jiang Junling looked at Fang Yan and said, "This kind of insult has no meaning. If even you say it's an insult, then it means that this kind of behavior will make you unhappy. I'm not a very promising person, but if I can make someone I don't like a little unhappy, I'll be very happy," Fang Yan said with a smile. "Tell me honestly, do you feel a little unhappy in your heart?" Jiang Junling nodded honestly and said, "It's not just a little unhappy, it's very unhappy. No one has ever dared to pour tea on the face of a member of the general's family. In the eyes of the elderly, this kind of insult is very serious, and it must be paid with blood. In other words, I'll have to be more careful when I go out in the future? Just take it as a friendly reminder." Jiang Junling looked at Fang Yan and said, "I sincerely wish for your family to be safe." Hearing Jiang Junling's threat again, Fang Yan couldn't help but laugh and said, "You must have heard of this saying, the barefooted are not afraid of those who wear shoes. We've experienced it before, so we know how painful it is to lose a loved one. After knowing it, we hope that this feeling won't befall us again, but befall others. For example, those people who want to kill us." Jiang Junling, do you believe it? I'm really not afraid of tearing your neck off." When Fang Yan said this last sentence, the smile on his face had disappeared, and his voice was devoid of any emotion. His clear eyes became deep, and a frightening scarlet red appeared in his pupils. At this moment, Fang Yan was filled with killing intent, and he was as violent as a general who had just slaughtered thousands of enemy soldiers on the battlefield. Even the heart of Grand Mystery couldn't suppress such killing intent. Even Laozi's mind-clearing incantation couldn't get rid of such killing intent. The expression of the old man in sunglasses changed again, and he couldn't help but sit up, moving sideways toward Jiang Junling. This was to prevent Fang Yan's sudden attack from catching him off guard. The old man in sunglasses looked at Fang Yan and said angrily, "How did you get the smell of blood from practicing the Fang Tai Chi? In the past, your grandfather wrote to me, praising you as a rare martial arts prodigy. You've indeed lived up to expectations, comprehending the heart of Tai Chi at such a young age. Not only the Fang family, but also the famous Tai Chi clans all agree that you're the master of Tai Chi's resurgence. But look at what you're doing now. What are you practicing? You're going to lead Tai Chi down the wrong path." Fang Yan knew that the old man in sunglasses was really doing this for his own good. Old people at their age still had a strong sense of greatness, such as the resurgence of their country and culture. Fang Yan had grown up in such a family, so he had subtly inherited such emotional cognition. The red in Fang Yan's eyes slowly disappeared, and the hostility in his heart dissipated. Only then was he able to speak to the old man in sunglasses in a normal tone. He said, "I know that the way I practice is wrong, and I also know that I'm going down the wrong path, but I really have no other choice. My heart is full of hatred, and I'm full of killing intent. If I don't vent these feelings, I think I'll never be able to return to the right path. In 3 years, I haven't made any progress in my martial arts, and I haven't mastered my Qi. Grandfather is also very worried for me, and he has asked me countless times to let go of the knot in my heart and let go of the hatred. But how can I let go? How can I let go? The knot in my heart isn't to let go, but to untie it. The hatred isn't to let go, but to have an eye for an eye. Fang Yan opened his mouth and smiled at Jiang Junling, saying, "That's why I came out. I used my own method to untie the knot in my heart and let go of the hatred. Jiang Junling, in the future, when I'm good at martial arts, you'll definitely be my greatest benefactor." "I can't bear it," Jiang Junling said with a serious expression. At this moment, in his heart, Fang Yan was like a rabid dog that could pounce and bite someone at any time. He somewhat regretted coming to Huaqing at this time. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.